Good evening. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the NUSD Board of Trustees. We'd like to note that this meeting is being broadcast on the district's YouTube channel at the direction of the board. Images and sounds from within the meeting can be captured there. If you'd like to make public comment on any item on or off agenda, please see our staff at the side table. Please join us with the Pledge of Allegiance. The board did meet in closed session this evening. Trustee Novato will report out.
Good evening. The board met in closed session on the following items: conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, information only, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, information only. Conference with labor negotiators Joshua Braff, Chief Financial Officer, and Francesca Wickham, Executive Director, Human Resources, and Employees Organization, Novato Federation of Teachers, NFT, information only. Conference with labor negotiators Joshua Braff, Chief Financial Officer, and Francesca Wickham, Executive Director, Human Resources, and Employees Organization, California School Employee Association, CSEA, information only.
Thank you. Our next item is approval of agenda. Item 14E has been requested to be pulled by staff to go on a future agenda, so I'm asking for a request to approve the agenda without that item. 14E, this is the playground item. I can read you the approval of accessibility features for elementary school playground project. That is the regular agenda item. Would anyone like to move to approve that? Thank you, Trustee Alexander. And second by Trustee Mack. Thank you so much. All those in favor? Have 6 plus 1 student trustee. Thank you. And now the consent agenda. Are there any items from the consent agenda that anyone would like to pull? Yes, Trustee Gasson.
Sorry, I just realized I have 2.
Okay.
15E, and I have a question on, there's so many, SD?
D.
So it's the exhibit for the technology repair and replacement guide.
Okay, are those items that you would like us to move to approve the rest of the agenda and then talk about those either next or later?
We can, whatever's easier. I just had a question about the exhibit, and then the other one, I just wanted to ask clarity on the contract.
Preference? Okay, trustee, excuse me, item 15E is IXL learning contract. Do we have a staff member present who could speak to that? Thank you so much. Okay, Trustee Gasson, what is your question?
So my understanding, and I didn't get a chance to reread it again. I was just, I'm totally for it, and I'm glad, and I learned from you guys that it's actually less than what we used to use, that this is replacing, so that's great. So, but the thing is not just for this year, it's for 5 years?
Correct.
So, and I don't think on the cover page that we were just approving the 1 year. So we're approving all 5 years?
Yeah, we did kind of discuss that here. Like, we didn't really know if we should we're kind of approving the cost tonight, the purchase for 1 year, but we also would like the overall subscription of the 5 years to also be reflected and approved as well, because it's all kind of one deal.
Okay, that's what my question is.
Yeah.
So it would be for the entire 5-year period?
That's right.
For the agreement. Okay, so
Yes.
I think that just needed to be modified on the.
So I'm sorry, the expense is a one-time fee or an annual fee?
So it's a 5-year contract with 3 installments: this year, next year, and the following year.
So there's 3 times that we will pay that amount of money over the next 5 years?
Yes, and there are 3 there on the, I don't know if you have it in front of you, but the third installment is less than, actually they are incrementally decrease each time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
More
Yeah, I mean, I just want
Thank
to
you for
make
the
clear that
clarification.
it's not just the 165, whatever. I don't have the cover page. I just
And
have
within the cover page, we have requested that if it's a more than one-time fee, that is very clearly stated within the funding source portion of the cover sheet.
Okay.
For anything. Thank you.
Great.
And then item 15S D. This is,
That's just the new cool student technology repair and replacement guide. I just wanted to know where that was placed and if it's going to be in the packet that goes to, like, if somebody's going to actually sign it.
thank you, Dr. Sinyard.
Yes, and so in addition to kind of going out at the beginning of the school year, we will also help send that out when students are getting their handbooks and reviewing that at the beginning of the school year, so students know as well.
Okay, I just want to make sure, even though it's a policy, people don't always know about it, and I just want to make sure it's in forefront for the families to understand the responsibilities behind that.
Perfect.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other items that any trustee would like to discuss further from consent? Hearing none, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Trustee Gasson, thank you. Second. Trustee Mack, thank you. All those in favor of approval of consent agenda, 6 + 1 student trustee, thank you. We will now have announcements. Maddie, would you like to give announcements?
Hi.
Thank you for being
Bill.
here.
Yeah, of course. I like being here. Okay, so so San Marin has been very busy the past 2 weeks with summer stuff, so we have a lot of fun announcements. So this is the last week of school, and the students are very excited for summer break. We will be having our graduation starting at 5 p.m. on the San Marin football field, and the gates open at 4 p.m. because seating is first come, first serve, unless you have already paid for reserved seats. So last week, the Wellness Hub hosted a Stress Last Week with many fun activities throughout the week to celebrate summer and give students a chance to relax before finals week. Friday, June 6th, leadership hosted a summer kickoff cornhole party. We also had Tommy Salsa, and everyone enjoyed the party right before summer. Friday, May 30th, we had our last rally of the year, and it really brought the San Marin community together. We then went into Joy Fest, hosted by the Wellness Hub, and 8 of our clubs, with many games, Kona Ice, and Tommy Salsa, which everyone had a blast at that. The incoming seniors can buy their t-shirts now and also make appointments for their senior photos. One of our ASB goals this year was to strengthen our club program and gather end-of-year data. From our club survey, we learned some really cool things. We had 30 clubs registered at the beginning of the year, and around 18 were regularly active with weekly meetings and at least one on-campus event. Across the 18 clubs, 20 events were restoration and cleanup events around Marin. Other events included cultural celebrations, card making, clothing drives, and guest speaker series. There were 525 hours of community service that was documented. The average club size was 20 students. Clubs also partnered with the Novato Rotary, Marin County Parks, National Laboratories, Marin Humane, Peony Hardware, and I cannot pronounce that. I apologize. Professional speakers include our own Superintendent Smith, chemists, engineers, orthopedic surgeons, geneticists, and community leaders. Our goal for next year is to have club awards ceremonies with different categories for services, community partnerships, and creative projects. For athletics, to register for athletics to San Marin, please visit our athletic website, sanmarinathletics.com, and register through homecampus.com. We can't wait for another year of amazing Mustang athletics.
Thank you so much. I've been very happy to be part of the grand jury report response process over the last few weeks, working with staff and others, so thank you for that, and just looking forward to the end of the year.
No announcements.
So I have a couple things, and I was just reflecting, and I think it's celebratory time. It's a wrap has been my theme, because there's so many things going on all over the place. They're exciting. One thing that wasn't so exciting but was helpful and is appropriate for tonight was attending the Capital Advisors budget presentation that was on May 27th. They presented the May Revise with information about the state of our financial situation here in California and the political climate too, so that was helpful. I think it was last week, I had the opportunity to present the award at Novato High School's Senior Awards Night. It was really great and fun to see all the kids and everything. Then the big thing for me the last week, I would say, and something I've enjoyed as a trustee every year, is attending the adult school graduation, and it's very emotional. Actually, Trustee met with me, and she hadn't been for it. I always cry. And this year, they actually had a 57-year-old lady who finally got her high school diploma, and we had one of our own staff members got their GED, and there were 3 ladies that got their citizenship. So it was it's always just such a nice event. Then I had the privilege of going to the MSA Senior Award Night. And then I also attended the Digital Arts and Animation Festival. I think it's the 4th annual that Mr. Gersh does. And he is so fun and clearly loves what he does. He had this big old balloon concoction on his head. And even though I don't have a kid in the program, it was neat to see what our kids are doing at the high school level. And it's amazing. And I encourage you all the next school year at the end, there's just so many things that you can go see that are amazing what our kids are doing. And then as part of that, and just kind of inspired by Mr. Gersh and his enthusiasm and the difference that he's making clearly with these kids, he loves what he's doing. I was notified on Saturday of an event last night at the Book Passage. And so I actually got to talk to Dr. King, who had just written this book, and he talked about how one teacher made a difference in his life. And I know we all kind of say, it's the people that you come across to make you who you are, but for some reason it stuck even more for me, and it's going to make me emotional, because my daughter is a senior and graduating, and I've seen how the teachers that she had clearly helped her figure out where she wanted to go. And so I just wanted to show appreciation for all those teachers who may not recognize the impact that they've made, but my kid is a different kid today because of that.
Nothing to report. Just looking forward to graduation ceremonies this week.
Good evening. I got a chance to attend the Avid High School ceremony, and it was really nice to see where some of our students were going off to college. After the ceremony, Dr. Smith and I got a chance to talk to 4 of our students to figure out what helped you, right? Be successful in the application process, and what can we do better after they graduate to make sure that we are creating like a pipeline for our students, whether they want to go to career or high school. So that was really nice. I also attended the adult at high school graduation ceremony, and I know Trustee Gasson mentioned that one of our employees graduated, but it also was so cool because their son was a graduate of NUSD, so it was like a full circle moment, and I'm excited and looking forward to graduations this week, and I hope that all our students are safe. I also wanted to mention Happy Pride. Pride started June 1st and it concludes June 30th. Thank you.
I had the pleasure of doing a site visit at San Jose Middle School, which was wonderful, and I participated in the dress code committee. Thank you.
All right, happy Pride Month. Very important. We do have a flag out, at least in front of the district office. So promotions and graduations all week long. I believe there's, in addition to Nova and Adult Ed, we have 13 more to go, which is super fun. And thank you to all the staff who put those together and the parents who come out to show support of their students and to celebrate. We have just on the horizon, there are new e-bike rules coming to the city of Novato and the rest of the county of Marin. And that includes that Class 2 bikes are no longer allowed for kids under 16. And that means Class 2 means they have a throttle. So those will be enforced, hopefully, as much as possible with our police department. Schools that will be getting service this summer, so the projects, they'll either be partially closed, entirely closed, include Sinaloa, which will be fully closed, as our two administrators in the room know. We have PV, SR in Hamilton getting painted. Oh, and Novato High School. They have actually a whole electrical project on top of paint happening there. So thank you to all of the hard work of JC and Josh and our team for putting all those plans, John, from Greystone. And thanks to the entire Ed Services, Student Services team, business team. Tonight we have a lot of pretty grandiose reports that represent a year's worth of work. And we're very happy to be able to share those tonight. And then we have just a quick thing that enrollment and hiring are going steady. And so we're feeling very positive about next year. And thanks to Maddie for being here. And the grand finale of my comments, I would like to introduce you to Maritza Mora. Maritza is our new transportation manager who will begin her role officially on June 23rd. Come on up. You can stand right here, and I'll come. Maritza joins us after having 9 years of experience in the school transportation industry, having served as a state-certified school bus instructor, safety officer, and most recently as the president of CASTO Chapter 10, representing transportation professionals across Contra Costa, Napa, and Solano counties. Her leadership in safety, compliance, training, and operations is well known and highly respected across the state, and she is here with us in Novato. So welcome.
So wonderful. Okay, we have two public hearings. First, we're going to open the public hearing for NUSD Local Control and Accountability Plan. If anyone would like to make public comment at this time regarding the LCAP, please complete a comment card now. Okay, seeing that there is none, we will close that public hearing. Our next item is opening the public hearing for preliminary general fund budget. If anyone would like to make a comment on this, please stand now and see the side table. Seeing that there are none, we will close this public hearing. Thank you. Okay, we are excited to welcome School Fuel. They are going to be doing a drawing for a bike giveaway as a result of Tour Novato.
Hello, Superintendent and Trustees. We are very excited to be here to wrap up the 2025 Tour of Novato. And as of today, the event has raised almost $74,000 for our schools. Super exciting. I have a few of our School Fuel board members here. One of the things that I think really stood out about this year is we had the most student participation from high school students who were giving back to their community, whether it was volunteering to support the event or hosting a booth. We had the new San Marin Black Student Union. We had the Medical Careers Pathway kids. We had students from visual arts and creative writing. We had the robotics team from San Marin, and we had product design. Are there other student groups? We had Avid students on the cleanup and setup crew. And we had so many great interactions between these high school kids and our elementary kids, talking to them about what they could look forward to if they stuck with the program. And I think that opened a lot of eyes from parents and students alike, and I loved seeing that. We want more of that next year. Do you want to add anything else? Okay, so this represents the fundraising. Every $100 raised earned a ticket into the big drawing, and the name that will be pulled here is going to walk away with a brand new bike from Mike's Bikes, local here, and we're super excited about that.
You don't want to help me, Sloan? All right. It's a lot of pressure. I get it. I get it.
We have 2 board members whose names are in here, but no pressure. And the winner is Liz Nelson, teacher from Sinaloa.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much to School Fuel for all you do to support our community and our schools. We appreciate you. Okay, we now are at the non-agenda public comment portion of the meeting. We are glad to have commenters on any item not on agenda. 3 minutes is allowed for each commenter. However, we are not allowed to respond to these comments, nor are we able to speak about employees or student privacy situations. The board directs the appropriate staff member to respond to all comments within 2 business days following our board meetings. I currently have 4 cards. Our first speaker will be Mirabel Espinoza. If she'd like to come up, and ready on deck will be Oz Becker. If you'd like to come to the middle, yeah, right here in the center. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Oz Beckers, and after that will be Galenda Martinez.
Check, check. Okay, yeah, we're good. Hi, guys. Hi, board. It's Oz, your favorite soon-to-be laid-off web developer and squeaky wheel. I'm speaking up tonight because it's the silence that I noticed right away when I was hired on, that there wasn't really anyone who's speaking up for websites to begin with. So that's why I'm here, to kind of follow up on something I noticed from the very beginning. But I want to bring to light that I'm afraid that the leadership strategy for our digital presence is a bit of a concern because it's dictated by financial metrics and not community needs. But this isn't news to anybody. We've all felt the sentiment one way or another. But it's a really big warning sign and a red flag when a website launches a new when a district launches a new website and then subsequently you did not fire me, lays off or it raises the position of the webmaster. It's again a very it's like trying to renovate your own house by yourself by using pictures. You could have hired a professional that would handle the plumbing details, but you just start demolishing and you tear down some load-bearing walls and you patch it up and you add some new fixtures and it looks great, but eventually it's all going to start to crack. It's been really hard coming to work every day since February when I was first given notice that my job was going to be cut, pouring my heart and soul into something that I wanted ever since I've been here. And it's even been harder when I've been pointedly ignored by staff members walking into my office, walking by my desk, greeting everyone but me and ignoring me, even avoiding eye contact. Like I said, I just wanted to come here tonight to set a new precedent and make sure the district really tries to prioritize digital presence and not just the digital infrastructure and SIS and all the metrics to try to track data, but your website is your front-facing tool to your community, and you're not going to be able to attract students. And again, I want you to please lean into your motto, engage, inspire, and empower before you mishandle more amazing, talented employees like me that want nothing more than the best for this district.
Thank you. Next, we have Glenda Martinez, and after her will be Dante Esperanza.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Glenda Zulina Martínez del CID. Soy la mamá de un estudiante de intervención temprana de la escuela Rancho. Me dirijo a ustedes para expresarle mi preocupación y descontento. Hace algunos días apenas recibí la noticia que mi hijo, Jeremy Gael Camey Martínez, había sido trasladado de la escuela Rancho a Loma Verde. No entiendo por qué esa decisión de trasladármelo a otra escuela después de estar en Rancho por 2 años. La verdad se me hace imposible aceptar esa decisión por motivo que no puedo llevarlo hasta allá y no tengo ayuda de nadie. Cuando recibí la noticia de su traslado rápido, como pude, acudí a su escuela para que me dieran una explicación, pero lamentablemente me dijeron que no podían ayudarme, que no era decisión de ellos. Después seguí averiguando y me dijeron que fuera al distrito, pero como solo con cita, me dieron el email y número de teléfono. Empecé a mandar email, pero no obtuve respuesta. Nomás me contestaron uno. Y la verdad me dejaron esperando la respuesta. Luego intenté comunicarme directamente con la secretaria por llamada telefónica, pero me mandó a mensaje de voz. Dejé mensaje de voz y tampoco obtuve respuesta. La verdad me sentí como discriminada al no tener ninguna respuesta. Yo no entiendo por qué nosotros los latinos somos discriminados de esa manera. Sí, para ellos todos los seres humanos debemos ser los mismos, sin importar de qué país seamos y qué situación migratoria tengamos. Porque las escuelas están para ayudar a quien lo necesite, para que nuestros hijos reciban una buena educación y no para ser rechazados por ser hispanos. El problema en este caso no se trata de la escuela, sino del distrito que no toma en cuenta nuestra pena de madre. No se tocan por una vez el corazón y en vez de mandar a nuestros hijos a otra escuela, no mandan más personal a la escuela donde ellos están. Yo en mi caso no puedo llevar a mi hijo a estudiar porque está demasiado lejos. Me cuesta mucho por motivo de que él está en una clase especial y por lo tanto él necesita un poco más de ayuda para que cualquier otro niño normal. No todos cuentan con las mismas capacidades para entender y el mío es uno de ellos que requiere más ayuda de los maestros. Tomen en cuenta que para llevarlo a la escuela rancho, yo tengo que caminar con él 40 minutos todos los días y se me hace un poco imposible porque él se estresa demasiado. Por favor, se los pido de corazón que me ayuden. Necesito una respuesta inmediata ya que se acercan las vacaciones de verano y se cerrará el distrito y las escuelas.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Can we now have your translator take the same
I
time?
will summarize all that. So my name is Glenda. I have a kid on early intervention that has been attending Rancho for the last 2 years. He's in a special intervention because he needs extra services. So I received the notice from the school that he's been overflowed to Loma Verde. And just to let you know that we cannot have this kid attending Loma Verde because we don't have transportation. I'm here alone. And just to let you know that we walk every day 80 minutes for him to attend these classes at Rancho, and now you are sending this kid to Loma Verde. I called the office the same day that I received the notice that he was overflowing to Loma Verde to figure out what will be the next step for us, and nobody really answered my call. I've been trying to communicate with the district, and I sent an email like a week ago and haven't received any information. I went to talk with the office, and they told me that it wasn't the school decision, it was the district decision, because when a kid is overflowed, they will send to the next available spot on the district. And I here to begging you to please take my kid at Rancho because I don't have the ability to take my kid to Loma Verde. That will cost a lot for my family struggle, and I don't have the ability to take my kid to Loma Verde.
Thank you. And last we have Dante Esperanza.
The father of Mariana, also my wife came earlier, and I was talking regarding the situation. We feel that we've been put in a situation that is unfair to my daughter that's been in the school. I've had all my 4 kids at that same school. And it's been frustrating because I've been promised from the principal of the school that nothing would ever happen to my daughter, and it keeps on happening. So I need to find out from you guys to really research the policies on either special needs kids, if that's what it is that's causing those problems with the one student in that classroom for my daughter, that my daughter shouldn't be scared of going to school. Any student should be. And if 25 to 30 students are seeing this, it's traumatizing for any kid. And I do not want my kid to be traumatized that way. And I just think that you guys need to really investigate this situation, because I already talked to the education services. I talked to Mike about it on Monday, right away as soon as this happened, because I already talked to the principal and had no great response of what they told me. Nothing had happened, because I said, why wasn't that student suspended? That was the first question I asked on Monday. They said they can't. And I said, this is why my daughter's not going to be here, and I pulled her out of the school. My daughter's not going to the school these last 4 days because she's unsafe to be in. She's not going to be safe in that school, because they promised me, since we had a meeting in September, that this would never happen again, and it happened again last Friday. And I said, this is it. I said, my daughter's not coming, and that's how I pulled her out. That's unfair, because she wanted to be with her friends at the end of the year and could not, because we're not safe. We don't feel my daughter's in a safe environment. So please investigate to this situation and really look at, and email us, because we really want to know what's the next step, because I don't want to move my daughter, but if I do, I'll move her, because she needs to be in a better environment. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next item is 13A, Athletic Director's Annual Report. I think we have Mike Saisi running this with our athletic directors from middle school and high schools.
All right, good evening, everybody. Good evening, trustees, student trustee, and Dr. Smith. I'm excited to be standing up here tonight because I get to report out on not only high school sports, but middle school sports. I want to start by introducing our three athletic directors. We have Scott Himes from Sinaloa, Elizabeth Pasquale from San Jose, and Neil Kanan from Hamilton and the Rise Foundation. I've had the pleasure of working with all three of these individuals all year. We met for a really long time. We met every 2 weeks, which was a huge ask, but they came to all the meetings. And then before I begin, I would definitely be remiss if I did not start off by acknowledging and thanking Ellen over there for all of her hard work on middle school sports. We are up here standing up here giving this report, but truly we would not have accomplished as much as we accomplished if it was not for Ellen's collaboration and hard work. So thank you, Ellen, for all of that. All right, so first thing is we were incredibly lucky to have sports in 3 different seasons. So in the fall season, we had our middle schools were involved with flag football and cross country. In winter, they were involved with basketball, and then the spring season, they were involved with volleyball, track, and soccer. And then this next slide is showing you just how many teams each school had in the fall, winter, and spring, and then how many participants. So you can see they had pretty much the same amount of teams overall, and the number of participants was incredible for middle school sports, and this being like the first full year of like we are doing it full on. So thank you to these 3 individuals. So now I'm going to have the athletic directors come up for each of the schools and just talk about what middle school sports meant to their kids and any achievements that they had this year. So first up is Neil.
Thank you, Mike. Hello, greetings, everyone. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you. As mentioned, my name is Neil Kanan, and I am the athletic director for Rise Scholars for Hamilton School. If you're not familiar with Rise, we do math, reading, mentoring, English, tutoring, chess, and then my portion is athletics. First off, would like to thank Dr. Tracy and the Board of Trustees for attending our annual auction. Our community greatly appreciated it, and we thank you for your continued support. To Ellen and Mike, thank you for your dedication and hard work taking these after-school programs to the next level. You've helped build our working relationships and allow us to be friendly neighbors in athletics as opposed to rivals. That's a big deal for us, so thank you. To, God, I can't read anymore. To JC and Trevor and the maintenance crew, thank you for your diligence in resurrecting our soccer field into a reliable field for all of our kids to call their very own. So thank you. To Elizabeth and Scott, thank you for our working relationship. I learned so much from you guys this year and look forward to many years ahead. And Elizabeth, we wish you the best of luck as you move on into the new chapter of your family life. The impact of the Novato After School Athletic Program was very positive, of growth, of experience of growth and discipline. This relationship, as I mentioned before, bridged the gap between our schools. The consistency and the routine of the practice schedule is what the kids benefited the most from. You know, there used to be a time, and there still is, when that bell rings at Hamilton, all the kids just run to those candy carts at the exits at dismissal. So now the kids are learning the responsibilities of what it's like to be on a team. They come to practice and they're ready to go. They have learned to be prepared, to focus, and most of all, they're having fun. And because of this, our kids want to play at the next level and high school. Giving our kids this infrastructure allows them to give them confidence and gain confidence, and just gives them an opportunity to play. We have seen our kids get better as individual athletes and collectively as a team. But to us, this is not the most important thing to us. It's not just about the athletic skills and winning and losing. It's if they can be counted on now, the next level, in high school, in society, and in the real world. This is about a vehicle to teach life lessons of perseverance, adversity, sacrifice, commitment, hard work, cooperation, and enthusiasm, to name a few. This is why we are here. This is why we do what we do. And Hamilton and Rise are very grateful for the impact this initiative had on us this year. So thank you, community members. We look forward to many years ahead, and thank you for your time.
Okay, I hate following Neil, but I'm just gonna make it quick. This was an awesome experience for us to launch SJMS Athletics. Our philosophy was simple: if you want to play, you get to play. So we did have tryouts for some of our more competitive teams, but every student who wanted to participate participated. And if we didn't have a team, I created one. We also had, okay. To build a sense of, a sense of unity, we made sure that every student had a practice shirt, and they wore them throughout the campus as a symbol of like being part of something special. So it was really awesome to see that. We also wanted to make sure that there was no barrier to students participating. So we had very, very generous parents who came through at the end to really make this happen. And with that, those donations, we were able to obviously afford to have all those teams, afford to have brand new uniforms and practice shirts, but also kids at our school who couldn't afford cleats or workout clothes. I would just buy them on Amazon for them. So every student was able to participate and feel good about participating and feel supported. This program had a profound impact on all our students. We saw kids participating that wouldn't otherwise have that opportunity. These were kiddos who don't have the funds to go out and play travel ball or club, but they came, they learned discipline, they learned teamwork, and it was really a powerful thing to walk into the gym and see these students playing sports when I know that they would otherwise be at home doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing. So that was great. And a lot of these kids participated for the first time ever. You wouldn't walk by and call them athletes, but they were at the end, and that was awesome. And then lastly, I did want to just acknowledge our parents. They came through not only with donations, but they volunteered to coach because all these teams need coaches. And I didn't even have to hustle as bad as I do in other youth sports that I'm involved with. We had a great group of parents. We actually had parents, especially our 6th grade dads, who came through and coached several different teams for us, which really helped out a lot. So overall, it was a positive impact. It helped kids have pride in our school and really have a sense of purpose. I cannot say enough. If we could start earlier, it would be even better. I work at Loma Verde, and if we could have track and field at even 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, it would be phenomenal.
Mr. Himes, Scott Himes, thank you, Mike. You still calls me Mr. Himes. Mike and I, he was our assistant principal at Sinaloa for a long time, so we've got a pretty good connection. Just want to thank first our board of trustees, superintendent, Ellen, Mike, Elizabeth, Neal, just all working together. Thank you for all your support in our programs. It was an awesome first year. Thank you, Ellen and John, always supporting our kids to be a part of the sports programs, Sinaloa. Up here is just some of the achievements that happened through the year. We formed a girls flag football team. It was really neat to, we had our girls together as a co-ed team, and then we had the opportunity to create a girls team and compete against San Jose and I think Hill Middle School. So that was a really positive experience for our girls, and they're excited about next year having a girls flag football team. As most of you guys know, last year, or actually 2 years now, they first started girls flag football at the high school level. So it's been really cool for girls to get interested at the middle school level and to continue to the high school. We had 4 students placed in the top 10 at the county cross-country championship meet, which was awesome. Our 8th grade girls were in middle school athletic. We're league champions for 8th grade girls. They were back-to-back, 2nd year in a row, 7th and 8th grade. Our 6th grade girls were in middle school athletic league. They got 2nd place. They went to the championship. If you had a chance to watch the game at San Marin High School, it was an amazing night with having 2 teams in the championship. A lot of fun, good crowd, good support. And then our track and field team, we had over 40 students qualified for the county championship meet, was probably I think between us and White Hill were the 2 most represented middle schools in the entire county at the county championship. And we had 2 county records at this year. 3, thank you, Alec. So overall, all that was really nice, but the real cool thing too was just the spirit, the overall spirit that it created for our students. For a lot of students that never really participated in sports before, having that opportunity to have something that they felt had a pride in, which was really neat, and for them to show up and have something besides which was great. Learning obviously is most important, but it kind of motivated them to come to school every day and have something extra. And especially like Elizabeth said, the amount of kids that would be at home playing video games and they're here participating in sports after school and practicing. The volunteers were incredible. We had, just like Elizabeth and Neil talked about, we couldn't do this program without the parent volunteers. All our sports teams all were volunteer parents. It was great. And then we had volunteer students that, I guess that's what you call them, that would come out and do our scorebooks and do the scoreboard. I had a couple students that it was the most exciting moment for them all day long and all week long during basketball season. Mr. Himes, where are we at? Where are we playing? What game am I doing the scorebook for? So all our, which if you've been to a basketball game, it takes a lot to involve, with volunteers to run a basketball game besides just a scoreboard, but doing their scorebook. So there's a lot of other things that goes on, and we had volunteers or student volunteers for all that, so that was really neat. We had a couple students that wanted to be part of a team, but weren't able to be, they've never played sports, but sports weren't something that excited them, but being a part of the team was really, really cool for them, so that was a special experience. So I really thank you guys for, just supporting us and supporting middle school. It's been a really exciting for me too, to kind of have an opportunity to reach to the kids in another way besides, not just learning, but being in the basketball court, football field, and going to the games and supporting them. And really thankful for our principal and Ellie, March, and John coming out and seeing the games. And when the kids see the principal and assistant principal at the game, it really, really makes them feel like, oh, this is something that exciting and important to them to come to the game, which was really cool. So thank you very much, and hope we can continue with this. Sorry, John.
All right, so we had, like I mentioned at the beginning, we met every couple of weeks to get this off the ground, and our athletic committee, we did a ton of stuff. So we set up processes and procedures. We developed a registration process for the kids to register for the sports, developed a middle school student and coach handbook. These three held preseason meetings with their coaches and parents and guardians. We received a donation from Equip Sports for first aid kits. And I would say probably the most proud accomplishment, I think, and I think they would agree, were the instructional leagues that we started. There's a lot of kids, for example, like basketball. There's a lot of kids that came out for basketball, and there's only so much room on a basketball team. But we were able to form an instructional league within Novato for kids that just wanted to be on a team and just wanted to learn how to play basketball. And we did that for basketball, soccer, and volleyball. And it was great. I went out to the games, and they were clearly some of them have never picked up a basketball before, but were having a great time. So we were very fortunate for that. And then next year, just to continue to meet monthly and align our practices, and then continue to find funding sources and ways to fundraise. And that is it for middle school sports. Oops. Yep, absolutely.
I'm just going to add that we're also working at the superintendent level and with Marin County Office of Education to form an official Marin Middle School Athletic League. So taking the kind of the MCAL model and moving it into the middle school model. So we're getting really close to being able to formalize that. And we are more than prepared to lead others the way with these amazing examples.
I'm just saying, prototype here. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. The amount of traction you guys have made in 1 year is just crazy good. I love it. And the stories about the students just finding ways to get excited and get involved and do these things. I've seen a few of the games, and I saw exactly what you're saying. Kids just have no idea how to play this game, but they're having a blast. And they're not doing dumb things somewhere else. They're out on campus having fun and doing all the things you guys talked about. So needs to say I'm a huge supporter of this, and I endorse all of the positive attributes of it, and of course endorse whatever we got to do to fund it and make it work, and as well as the Marin Middle School Athletic League. Question on that: if you go to the first slide, Mike, how many of the sports currently are already kind of venturing into that space, playing outside of Novato? I know basketball, right?
So basketball is, flag football is, and cross country and track.
Cross country and track, yeah. Have been for decades, I guess, yeah. Okay. So what so volleyball's getting there, and soccer, I guess. Okay, got it.
Yeah, and I want to say there actually is a volleyball.
We actually have ventured out.
Yeah.
Novato in the past
Okay.
few years. Marin Primary or
Fantastic. Right.
Yeah, we've had the opportunity to venture out in the last couple of years. Marin Country Day, Marin Primary, Mark Day entered into our program as a Venetia Valley. So yeah, our reach is not just Novato. It's
right.
Slowly.
Looking forward to getting back to the old days when there was full-blown, every single middle school had a program. So are there any other sports you see getting added to any of the seasons? I mean, maybe not next year, maybe in somewhere down the road.
It's a good question, because we did have conversations around, and correct me if I'm wrong, we talked a little bit about golf, and we talked a little bit about lacrosse.
Mm-hmm.
Am I forgetting any? And softball.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know Denise was here earlier. I was wondering, what about aquatics?
We did not talk about that. No, definitely
I know that's a huge equipment cost, but anyway. But I know that's also a big thing too. Okay. And then just so you guys know, at the NCS level, where I'm on the executive committee there, the conversation has started. They get it. They know there's a need for it, and they don't know how they're going to do it, but they understand there is a need to really start pushing middle school sports across the section because of what it does for kids. And also, it's an equity thing. There's too many travel type programs driving who actually succeeds in high school. That's not cool. We need every kid to have the opportunity to do this, and this program does that. And if NCS can make that happen, I'm all over it. So you got I got your back there. I'm pushing that hard from the top down. So thank you so much. Good stuff.
Great. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, guys. All right, so now I'm going to call up our two athletic directors from our high schools. And I wanted to start, most of you already know these two individuals, but I want to start by introducing Michelle Smith from Novato High School and Tyler Peterson from San Marin. They are going to report out on high school sports, but before I get started, I just wanted to thank Ellen once again, JC and Josh. They are at monthly meetings with us three right here, answering a ton of questions every month. Our agenda is jam-packed, and we get it done in an hour, but without all of them, it would not happen. So thank you very much. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you two. And you guys just hit the slides right here. You want to go to the second?
No, we're good. First of all, we just want to thank the board and Dr. Smith for having us every year. It's so nice to be able to come in here and let you know what we're doing on a daily basis. And yeah, special thank you to the athletic task force, because they really do put up with a lot from, especially me.
A lot of our questions.
A lot of our questions. So anyway, thanks again.
Yep. I also do want to mention the middle school numbers that we saw were fantastic. We love to see that, and we're excited to see those translate to high school, and hopefully more sports come up and have them come our way. So we have all these great sports happening at both of our schools. Flag football obviously being the brand new one to both schools, and we'll get into it some more, but the numbers have been great, and success has come with that, so we'll get into that as well in a little bit, but for now.
We wanted to put the participation data on one slide so you could see the high schools compared to one another, but we're also going to go through it individually. So he'll talk about San Marin, and then I'll talk about Novato, just so you can see. Obviously, the numbers are lower at Novato, so the numbers of teams are lower, but I can get into that later. But we just wanted to show you it side by side.
So at San Marin, the numbers are the same as the last slide for athletes. The one thing I do want to point out is our 3.0 GPA teams was everybody. But I do want to highlight our girls basketball and varsity baseball teams, both taking home their Division III Scholastic Award banners. Massive accomplishment for both both teams. And I think girls basketball got it last year as well, so hoping for that three-peat next year. All right. Go ahead.
And just so you know, North Coast section honors every team that's over 3.0. Every student athlete that has a 3.5 to a 3.9, or 3.9, and then 3.9 to 4.0. And each of them will earn a certificate at the end of the year. So it is a big deal for us that they know that the classroom comes first. These are the teams for us in the fall, winter, and spring that earned the 3.0 team GPA. We are working on improving several others. And then down here is our 3.5 and above students in each of our sports.
So here's our athletic participation trends for the last 3 years. I do want to mention that I believe for the San Marin numbers, they're a little bit inflated, but that's mainly because of the number of multi-sport athletes that we have. Our numbers for this year, for example, are closer to about 800, but that just shows you that we have about 300 or so multi-sport athletes, which we're very proud of. You know, I think our enrollment's going up a little bit next year, so we hope to see even more growth.
So, and just so the community knows, the board has asked us to show the difference of the last 3 years so we can see the progression. We'll do that as well with the injuries. For both San Marin and Novato, we've talked about this before, we always require the student athletes to take concussion tests. So it is 100% participation that these kids do that. If they happen to get injured, they will take a post-injury test, and our trainers will take them to the 10-day concussion protocol. And I think our concussions are lower. He'll talk about that on the next slide than the past few years. But just, again, a thank you to the board for keeping our trainers full-time. I don't think you have any idea if you were on campus and watched them from the hours of 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. It is a madhouse in their room, on the fields, in the gym. They are incredible at what they do, and we cannot thank you enough for keeping them for us. And then obviously the 911 calls and the referrals to the primary doctors numbers are up here. And then the student athlete encounters every day, I'm going to be honest, I think those are low numbers for our trainers. I think they were being nice to let us know that they're not overworked, but they do an amazing job.
Yeah. And I do want to mention, I think the 911 numbers are as low as they seem, but I think a lot of that is the fact that we have trainers on site that can help in the immediate. Had they not been there, that number would obviously be exponentially higher. So these are the same numbers, but reflecting the last 3 years for each of those statistics. As far as concussions go, I think for both schools, the main reason that they're lower this year has to do with the technology, especially like when it comes to a sport like football that gets more concussions than other sports. We now have helmets that are designed to protect their heads a lot more efficiently. We also have technology now that our trainers use that they can have it on their phone in terms of and see the impact of a hit with the helmet. So it's incredible, and it helps our trainers react very quickly on the spot. Again, all of the numbers over the last couple of years. In particular, if you have any questions about these, we can get into them, but here they are as over the last couple of years. So athletic achievements for San Marin this last year. Very proud to say we had multiple league championship pennants to take home this year. In football, obviously we were very excited to have the highest ranking we've ever achieved as a school for football. So high that we got to play the #1 team in all of North Coast section, that being De La Salle, which was an experience for everybody. Many of our teams made it to MCAL playoffs. For girls tennis in particular, it was their first time, and again, I don't have the numbers exactly, but very first time in a long time that they not only made MCAL, but NCS as well. Girls volleyball, NCS playoffs. Same goes for girls golf. First time in at least 15 to 20 years that they've achieved making MCAL playoffs and NCS. Water polo, same thing. First playoff game win. It says in a long time. I apologize for that. Boys and girls basketball both made it to NCS playoffs. There is a new structure within NCS playoffs this year that there's mixed feelings about, but regardless, all of our teams competed and earned NCS bids, which has been really exciting. Wrestling, my coach would be remiss if I did not include this one. MCAL champions, I believe the last one was about 10 plus years ago, so it's an incredible achievement for them. Boys soccer, same thing, NCS playoffs. Baseball just wrapped up recently along with softball. Both had a long run in MCALs, softball winning the MCAL playoff, and both making it to the NCS quarterfinals. Boys tennis, MCAL playoffs. Again, for them, first time in a long time that they made it to the MCAL playoffs, which is very cool. Both lacrosse teams very successful and made it to the quarterfinals. When it comes to swimming and track and field, those are more individual sports. So we had 9 swimmers advance to NCS, and then for track and field, 14 athletes at NCS. And I wanted to highlight a few groupings within that. Trenton Jetma, who's a senior, and he'll be at Riverside next year. He set a discus record for our school, which is incredible, and we look forward to seeing what he does next year. And both our boys and our girls 4x800 relay teams set new school records. So it was a very incredible year for all of our teams.
We got a discus too. We had our girls, Audrey Kobayashi won the discus at the MCALs. So must be something in Novato. Anyway, you can see our achievements up there. I'm going to kind of choose a few to go through that stand out. One, this was our first year in flag football, and that was really exciting for us. We don't have an actual league because we don't have enough teams in MCAL right now, but we went undefeated against all MCAL teams. So my coach likes to say he won the pennant, but not quite there yet. We qualified for North Coast section, but the East Bay is pretty darn strong in flag football, so we didn't quite get there. No Marin teams and only one Sonoma team made it there. So cheer and dance, they won their state and regional title and a runner-up in nationals. And then boys lacrosse. We started this season as, are we going to have a team or are we not going to have a team? And they came together with 9 brand new players, went 10-1 at home, qualified for the Division I playoffs, which, like Tyler mentioned, the playoffs are a little different. They place you by enrollment in your division, but you can go up to or down to play. And in lacrosse, there's only 2 divisions. And if you know lacrosse, De La Salle, Marin Catholic, you're not going to beat them. And then when you look at the Division II winner and the top 4 ranks in Division II, we beat them all. So we would have had a chance to win Division II if we were able to stay there. But because we had such a good season, we moved up. Swimming, we definitely had a lot of athletes qualify for North Coast section. I think I had one girl that never lost a heat. Am I wrong on that? And then we also had the MCAL Diver of the Year, MCAL Championship, and he was top 3 in NCS and the top 18 in state. Like I mentioned before, my discus, Audrey Kobayashi, and then I had 2 hurdlers, Emmy Irving and Ben De Palma, qualify for the META Champions. And then we had the Wrestler of the Year, Braden Carroll. He is coming back for another year, so we're hoping that he might pull another one out next year. And boys volleyball, they made the MCAL playoffs for the first time in before COVID, I'll say, because it's a long time. And hopefully next year they'll move it on to North Coast section.
All right. Lots across both schools, a lot of college-bound athletes, which we're really proud of. You can see from D1 all the way down to JCs. I like to highlight on our end of things. We have one student who's going to play soccer at a European league next year, and will be attending the University of Sunderland down there in the bottom left corner, which I just learned about this year. But very cool opportunity. I kept mentioning Ted Lasso. He loved that. And can't wait to see what he does at the next level.
Go Dylan.
Yeah.
And then we have soccer players, football players, lacrosse, and baseball moving on to the schools coming right up here on here. If you have questions on who they are and where they're going, we can go into detail.
So we both have open coaching positions. I will say a lower number than I feel like than usual going into a new school year, which we're really excited about. For us, just boys volleyball side of things, and then boys freshman soccer. So we're excited to get those filled hopefully over the summer and go into next year with a full slate of coaches.
Yeah, please, if you know anybody interested. I mean, middle school, you're finding all these parents. We'd love to get them over at our area to sign them up any way we can.
Just a couple of these at a time. So we, like Michelle said, we've been doing the athletic task force this year. I'll go into our goals that we had set forth from the beginning. We want to continue to develop and improve processes and procedures, align practices across both schools, and open communication between the departments and then maintenance and operations department who sit in on those meetings and bear with us at all those meetings. Thank you for that. And then we work on our budget and funding sources across both schools and make sure that we're all doing right by each other. So.
And some of the successes we had this year, we with help of Ellen and putting a form together. We have site-funded repair and maintenance of equipment. So we, as you know, our fields are rented out all the time. And so our equipment is used and worn out. So we've come up with a process where we can request to NUSD on getting some help on recovering some of those equipment items that get ruined over time. Over the last couple years, Sam Marin's been working with the coalition to make sure the sound system is where it needs to be, and I think they've come to that, where they've redone that and it's ready to go. We have our hoops at Novato have been broken for a little while, and the construction for those hoops are happening this summer at the end of June, which I cannot tell you how excited my volleyball coach is that they can actually run 2 nets. And then we've also done added monthly maintenance with field turf. Before, our coaches would have to kind of fix the fields where there were little problems, and you guys have generously offered field turf to come in every month, and that has tremendously helped the fields stay to the level that they need to be, to not have to redo them sooner than we have to. And then we have a great working relationship with JC in maintenance and operations. The work orders are getting done in such a timely manner, and we cannot thank you enough for that, because that can be difficult. And then this year, really big for Novato, if you ever went to a baseball game, you could not read the score. We got a new baseball scoreboard installed, which was huge.
Yeah, back to the field turf. The one thing that we are really excited about is they're adding a piece to the field turf tractors, I guess I should say, that will help get rid of the weeds that grow on our fields. And on our fields in particular, the football field doesn't get as much, but the baseball and softball fields, our outfield looks like a Field of Dreams or something. So we're excited to get those monthly regulated. In terms of new scoreboard, sound systems, facility equipment, at San Marin, like Michelle said, we have a great working relationship with the coalition, but we're always working to make it even better. We did get new baseball speakers with the help of Josh, and we're still tweaking that to make sure it's to the neighbors' liking, but so far so good. And then at Novato, she's working towards getting lights for the football field, which we're really excited about. And then at San Marin, our mini gym and upper field are the 2 kind of big projects right now that we're hoping to hone and clean up for next year. I don't know if you want to add anything or no.
No, I just don't want to freak everybody out. Portable lights, can we say, not permanent. That's all I'm looking for.
For next year, we will be doing things a little differently when it comes to our parent-guardian meeting. So in years past, we would just all of our teams do a parent meeting ahead of their season. This year, Michelle and I will be hosting a parent meeting for all parents of athletes at our schools on August 25th. And at that meeting, we'll discuss together what the expectations are from the parent and athlete side of things. We're really excited about this because we want to make sure that the messaging is clear on both sides of the coin, what the expectations are, and make sure that there's no questions on either end.
Yeah. Same thing with the coaches. Yeah. Just to let them know we're a unified district and we have the same message going to all coaches and all parents and all student athletes.
Mm-hmm. We also, in years past, we would go to specific middle school events. This year, next year, Michelle and I are going to go to each middle school one at a time together to promote our school, to promote our athletics programs, and answer any questions directly from the students that they may have. We feel like that's a better way to get outreach to them. And then our athletic trainers, again, thank you for keeping them on for another year. But we love to see their liability coverage was added to the handbook, just so everyone's in the know about how important they are, added to that.
Yeah, and I think people forget the trainers are not only those that go on the field at the time of the injury, they are rehabbing them afterwards, which is incredible, them giving their time to do that, because you do spend a lot of money on physical therapy if you don't have that resource.
Mm-hmm. And then the one question that we always have going towards the end of the year is when we do our incoming freshman nights in May. we're always hopeful that we get good turnouts for both of our schools, but we want to make sure that going into next year, we really work with our middle school principals and create a consolidated flyer that includes everything that we're doing at the high school level so that all those middle schoolers that are playing sports or not playing sports are well in the know about what's going on at both schools. And then we will be working a lot more with our community liaisons in terms of making sure that all of our ELD students are in the know about tryouts and making sure that they're all well informed and involved in all of our athletics.
Cool.
So, yeah.
That's it. Not that you need
There's
that.
your acronyms if necessary.
Questions, comments? Trustee Gasson?
So thank you. I have to say thank you for the clarification on the lights.
Oh.
I was at first, I mean, when I came on the board, that I thought, anyway.
See, I need my trainer here for the heart attack.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think we've come such a long way, and so I love seeing all this and hearing the things we've implemented, and kind of some of it started back with Dr. Derby, and then we're continuing on, so I really appreciate that. And also the collaboration between both sites, I mean, that's really important, feeling like we're all doing the same thing, and a couple of points you made, kind of reinforce that, and I think that that's just really, I love that and appreciate that. And I know it didn't actually come up, but it's in our board package, and I just want to say thank you to our finance department, whatever, the little breakdown, the athletics funding sheet is very handy, so thank you.
As before, I want to give everybody else a chance to talk because I always try and end up dominating this conversation. Apologize for that.
I'm going to go to the bathroom.
Just really quick. Well, first off, I really appreciate the approach, the shared approach. I like that. It really helps to kind of show that we're all one district, that athletics are for all the kids, not just one high school versus the other. It's really important for everybody to understand that it's not so much where you go to play sports, it's where where your community is, where you're going to get your best education. You can get great sports no matter where you go. Can't tell you how many times I've told people that. But one thing I did want to bring up is slide 6, and that kind of, we have two kind of very different trends. And I don't know, do you want to speak to that at all? What do you guys think? I know it's a bit controversial, but
It's all right. I brought this up in the athletic task force meeting 8 times, I think, when we saw these trends.
Okay.
To be honest, when I went to high school, you went to your local high school.
Yep.
Now they shop around. And with the specialized programs, they are allowed to shop around. And so they can pick and choose kind of where they can go. And it's a little bit harder. You also have, and I'm going to probably upset a couple people here, 2 youth programs that support 1 high school here.
I agree.
And it's really hard to get them to buy into both high schools right now. I'll give you an example. One of the programs had black and gold uniforms for 45 years. We added green when my son was in there, and this year they went to green and gold. I'm not sure how to help connect the youth programs or figure out a way that they can support both high schools. But I think the problem is I don't think people realize what a special place Novato is. Working there, working with my student athletes and my coaches, they don't see it. I see it and I feel it every single day. And hopefully that trend will change and that perception will change, because I think people are losing out.
I also want to add too, I live closer to Novato, so had I been a student there, I also was an MSA kid. So I would have played sports and done MSA. So she would have had me as a student. But yes, we want to definitely see these numbers come together as much as we can. Like I said, our numbers are getting a little higher, so I anticipate obviously next year our numbers will be even better than they were this year. But the whole goal is that we work together and create numbers and teams on both sides of the thing, at both schools, to avoid either school losing out on having a team. And that's the big goal.
Yeah, Can I interject something about that?
Please.
A question just before anything else. Is it ever a strategy to literally walk down the halls and be like, hey, come play this sport, check it out, come, inviting kids directly?
Yeah, and we have coaches that go and sit at a table front of the cafeteria with all of their stuff and their videos and equipment. We do that too.
Yeah, I've seen it. The recruiting efforts are strong. There's lots of attempts there. The ironic part of that slide is that the actual enrollment of the two schools is exact opposite. I know Novato's what, 1,400 and San Marin's 11 or 12? Yeah. So, you know, right from the get-go, there should be that disparity, but we're not even seeing that, and it's going in the wrong direction. That's my concern, and I would really appreciate if we could, as a board, start finding a way to address these youth programs that are pulling these stunts. It's got to stop, and we have a certain bit of control on that. They rent our fields. We don't have to rent them to them. If they don't want to actually do what's important to support all kids in Novato, all high schools, then they can rent fields in Santa Fe. I know I'm going to piss some people off, but I don't care. I'm tired of this.
Just really quick about enrollment, we have been higher than San Marin for the last couple of years. I think next year they
it's
go
over,
higher than us.
Yeah, which
yeah.
is
So
interesting.
so the enrollment numbers actually for San Marin are going up.
Okay, and just one last thing I'll point out from the NCS perspective, and little acronyms here, North Coast section, they've always placed people in playoffs based on enrollment, and that puts you into a division depending on how many schools are participating. Could be Division 1 through 8. You know, like you said, lacrosse was 2. But anyway, they do that first, and then they move them around based on their won-loss records. Okay, great. Which didn't really help San Marin in football this year, but that's okay. It's welcome to the De La Salle world. But anyway, we're going to start pushing to change that from enrollment to participation, in which case San Marin would be a higher division than Novato, as opposed to it's not now. Novato, I think, is D2, generally speaking. San Marin's generally D3. With the participation numbers that Novato have, they'd probably slip into D4. And it'd make for a lot more effective competition, if we would. Anyway.
We do look forward to continue our relationship with the middle schools, because seeing those numbers, that should carry over to the high schools, both of us. So hopefully we will see more of that, and they know about sports before they get to our high school. Because it's amazing how many ninth graders look at me that first week and go, what? We have sports here?
Yep.
Which is crazy, but it is what we have. And so having that connection will be great.
And once again, it is an economic equity issue. There are, I would say, the majority of many of the programs at both high schools, don't get me wrong, the participants tend to be players who parents, guilty as charged, who have invested lots of money in their kid to get better at that sport over summer or whatever it is. And kids who just want to play, and they might be fantastic, they just don't get the chance. Thanks. Good stuff.
Just to add to the youth league issue, I will say, we might want to bring them to the table. We might want to bring them in as a collective meeting. I know that's a tough one. We tried before. But let's say we're in a different place as athletics across the district. I think they need to understand what we're trying to achieve in the district. So it might be wise to bring them to the table.
Okay, I have a few questions. Thank you. I appreciate the continuity you guys are using. I appreciate the holistic look, the bigger picture. All of that I think is super helpful and is going to be rewarding in the end. And I appreciate even the way you present. You guys are speaking as a unit. It's really nice to see. I want to encourage you guys to look for funding sources and the middle school, the middle schools. If we are trying to do as much as we can on our end. We are all advocating at the federal level and the state level, but there have to be other avenues, and I cannot guarantee that staff in this office always has time to do that or has access. And I think you guys probably have a whole different access point. So please do that. Field maintenance, I just wanted to say I'm really glad that we're doing the maintenance on those as, assets of our district and our community. It's important that we're making sure that those are taken care of well. And thank you for everything you're doing.
Well done.
Is there more? Okay, our next item is 13B. This is the Local Control and Accountability Plan Budget Overview for Parents, brought to us by Dr. Sinyard.
Good evening, board member, student trustee, Dr. Smith. Great job this evening. Loving to hear about all the sports and all the fun activities going on. And now we're going to shift over to our local control and accountability plan. Just a quick reminder, our LCAP is our 3-year plan. We are in year 1 of the implementation of our 3-year plan. And this plan basically kind of details all of the action. We have 3 major goals. It details all the actions, services, and expenses. And it really kind of focuses on the additional funding, the supplemental funding we have to support our English language learners, our students from low socioeconomic status, our homeless students, and our foster youth kiddos. And kind of in this overall accountability plan, the LCAP has a very specific process. Thank you. We did the public hearing this evening, and specific meeting requirements. It takes into account a lot of different plans as well. In the future meeting, at our June 24th meeting, we are going to bring forth our federal addendum, which discusses how we pay for our Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV dollars. In this plan also, you'll hear about our equity multiplier index number. And what that means is that we have a next extra goal, goal 4, and this goal relates solely to Marin Oaks High School. And it basically states that we have students, it's a transient population, and we have about a 70% student population that is low socioeconomic status. So we get additional funding for that group. And again, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about our Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, the continuing funding and needs assessment piece. That's new this year as one of the LCAP requirements of addressing the funding for this. And we'll talk about that in a goal here pretty quickly. Again, we've had a number of opportunities to learn from our key educational partners. I want to thank everybody who attended our LCAP committee steering committee. They came 3 times a year, looked at a lot of data, gave me some great feedback. We looked at survey data and a lot of fun focus groups that we get to go and talk to students and families. Again, we're kind of going through the approval process right now. Tonight's one of the big nights for the approval process, holding the public hearing, kind of having your opportunity to ask questions. And then finally, kind of the last portion of the LCAP is the local indicators. And so we report on kind of the 8 state priorities at our following meeting. And then with the local indicators, we basically say that we've met certain conditions. They kind of relate to our facilities. Are our facilities in good repair? Talk to us a little bit about misassigned teachers. Do we have teachers that don't have the appropriate credentials, and how are we dealing with those and addressing that? We talk about instructional materials. We talk about school culture and climate, how we're implementing the standards. So fun preview of the next meeting. Okay, and just kind of we talked a little about engaging educational partners. And so these are all the folks that we have kind of discussed and met with. So again, students, families, and staff. Our District English Learner Advisory Committee, so our DLAC group, getting a needs assessment done with them, having great conversations. They gave a lot of feedback specifically around tutoring and needed for tutoring supports. We have a consult with our SELPA, our Special Education Local Plan area. So we work with Rebecca Minnick at Marin County Office of Education, and we talk about how we're identifying specific needs for our students that have IEPs. Again, a huge thank you to my LCAP Advisory Committee. We meet with the heads of our labor partners. So we meet with CSEA and NFT leaders and talk about some of the needs and highlights that they have and their concerns. We also had opportunity to go and meet with the Leadership Novato crew. So that's wonderful. We have an education day with kind of the Chamber of Commerce, and we get to hold a little meeting there, and it's a great opportunity to I get immediate feedback. I was like, okay, you guys have to fill out the survey. So thank you to all of those guys. Our Special Education Committee, kind of concerns that arise from that group, and Dawn shares those with us. And then finally this year, this was kind of one of a new one for us, was the Equity Imperative Committee. And this is a group that kind of brings stakeholders across the district together. And through this group, we looked at academic data, we looked at climate and culture data, and we came up with some priorities. And this is kind of out of this committee meeting, we really did identify a number of areas to continue to focus upon, and you'll see these in the LCAP. Again, our graduation rates aren't what they need. We want them to be better. They're not what we need them to be at this point, and we need to do a better job with our English learners, our students with special education needs, and our unaccompanied minors. And so one of the things that we talked about last year in terms of the dropout numbers, one of the challenges that we have for our students who are English learners, especially the number of students who came kind of the last couple of years in the 11th and 12th grade, the days that they literally hit their birthday, a lot of students are withdrawing and going into the workforce. So that's a big area of focus for us as we continue to move forward. Increasing parent, guardian, and teacher understanding of our proficiency-based education and kind of our standards-based grading practices. That'll be a big focus for next year. Again, we look at data and how are we creating a system that truly allows everybody to get the data they need at kind of an instant feedback for our data cycles and continue to build a robust data infrastructure for those needs. Again, we're always focusing on positive adult relationships. We have used PBIS in the past, the Positive Behavior Intervention Supports Framework, continuing to implement those strategies to have clear expectations for kiddos and really having kids feel they have a trusted adult on campus. Again, like I said, a huge feedback from our DLAC crew was increased student access to tutoring and learning supports. And again, from all the professional development that we've done this past year, really continuing to identify strong Tier 1 instructional strategies. We spent a lot of time working with the Center for Educational Leadership, with our administrators and our TOSAs, really developing what does high quality instruction look like, what strategies do we need to see in the classroom, and how we support staff to make sure those are happening. Then, as we're kind of taking the input from our equity committee, we look at our Ed Services plan. And so how does the Ed Services team come together and kind of work through the LCAP? Really strengthening proficiency-based education, making sure that new staff that comes into our district understands what PBE is, making sure that we review and revise our essential standards, being very clear with our grading practices. Again, huge focus on early literacy. Again, this is something, and thank you to Lindsay and her crew, especially at the elementary level, doing an ELA adoption. We're doing a pilot right now, so more information, definitely stuff you're gonna be hearing about next year. Again, working with Dawn and Tanya for multi-tiered systems of support with special education focus and EL focus, making sure that when we are working with PBE and we have our standards, how we're utilizing additional standards and information to support students with special needs and our English learners. And continued English learner support, especially for the newcomer students that we have. And again, reviewing our reporting systems, reviewing, are we giving the best information for learning English and the progress that takes to do that. Okay. Again, with the LCAP, we have the 3 major goals. Again, and these are abbreviated from kind of the wordiness of the actual goals. But what it boils down to is that academic success and improved student outcomes for goal 1. Student well-being and mental health supports. Family engagement, inclusion and belonging. And as I mentioned earlier, equity multiplier goal, which is specific to Marin Oaks and is about $134,000 and how we have spent that funding. Okay, and then to kind of just basically say the actions that are very detailed in the plan, kind of how we're supporting our unduplicated kiddos. And so to that extent, our school counselors and community mental health supports, our teachers on special assignments to help with interventions, data sharing, working and coaching with teachers, our community liaisons and our community specialists, again, amazing work that they do with our staff, our students, and our families. Our focus on AVID, which is a course for kind of geared towards first-generation kiddos going to college that we start at the middle school level. And in the future, in the next coming school year, we are adding 2 elementary sites to become AVID sites as well. So Lou Sutton and Hamilton are on their way to becoming AVID schools as well. Very exciting. Our sections for English language development, our English learner specialists, and our multilingual coordinator. Translation supports for and support for LPAC testing. Again, our North-based security group, who helps us with so many issues in terms of wellness, in terms of conflict mediation, in terms of attendance. Can't say enough about the work that they are doing with us. Our credit recovery platform. This is more of a new one this year. Unfortunately, our A through G grant has expired. We have spent the funding for that. So again, looking at how we are continuing to use our credit recovery opportunities to ensure all students remain A through G eligible, and supports for the summer school in that respect. Again, our continued focus on dual language immersion support for bilingualism, biliteracy, kind of increasing that for additional professional development and focus in that area. And then kind of our new, as budgets have shifted and changed and some restructuring, we will now have a district college and career specialist that will help kind of, again, as you've heard, I think it was a perfect example tonight talking about the unified message that you heard from Novato and San Marin. Well, we're going to do the same thing with our community and with our college and career information. Okay, and then quickly our actions for all students, continued professional development trainings and opportunities. Again, big focus on proficiency-based education. Continued one of the biggest successes that we had and continue to have is kind of the decreasing chronic absenteeism and continuing with that work. Our attendance teams do a phenomenal job, and again, partnering with North-based security and everyone to make sure kiddos are not missing instructional time. Again, like we said, kind of talking about a robust data infrastructure and helping folks still understand data literacy and that requirement to help improve instruction. Our focus on Tier 1 instructional strategies, building out our assessment and learning platforms, working continuous with our equity imperative and our equity committee. Again, kind of a focus again for this coming school year is our artificial intelligence readiness. AI is here, and we need to help equip our students and our teachers with how to manage and deal the new challenges and benefits from AI. And again, like I said, mentioning the English language arts adoption at the elementary level, coming to you next year. Okay, and finally, here's the last part for the processes and the procedures. Again, we've met all the requirements that we need to do. Our LCAP and budget overview for parents has been online and is available if anybody comes into the district office. We're checking this box. This is our June 10th meeting. Again, coming June 24th for your consideration of approval. And final step, if approved, the LCAP will be submitted to the Marin County Office of Education for their review on June 25th. Okay. Oh, and math. Oh my goodness, did I skip over math? I'm so sorry. This is the number one priority in my head right now. One of the other huge areas that we're tackling for the 25-26 year is kind of looking at math and improving the outcomes for students. I thank my math task force crew. Again, huge shout out to my math task force this year, who's really looked at kind of focusing more on the 8th grade to 9th grade transition and looking at the high schools. In the coming year, we will be extending this to have a TK through 12 math task force and really diving into, again, focusing on Tier 1 strategies, where areas or gaps are happening, and how to support that. So lots of fun stuff to come in the math land. And with that, any questions that you might have?
Thank you. I don't know if it's a question so much as I know it's an incredible amount of work and all of the things that you need to complete. Part of my question, I guess, goes to something I'm going to be asking about during the budget presentation. I just happened to look this up because there's, when Trustee Butler and I attended the workshop, the budget workshop, there was conversation about how many new people are in offices at the state level that don't understand LCFF, and that there's like this phase of maybe transitioning again. So it prompted me to look to see like when was this put into place, and it looks like 2013, 2014, this type of funding. So my question to you would be, this is all important work, and we should be tracking and figuring that out. What did we do before?
Great question. There was a lot more. They had categorical funding, and so there was restricted funding. You could,
just reported out then on what you did for each bucket. I'm kind of looking where the landscape is going, and like, okay, all good work and important work, but I was like, okay, if they start messing with that, then what do we do? So anyway, again, not exactly a question, but just wondering from that point of view. And I also wanted to acknowledge that I'm glad that you shared that last element. I have a lot of questions coming to me about math. And so the fact that you're expanding that, I think, is really important. And I know all areas are important. We've got to focus on reading as well. But thank you for expanding that. I think that a lot of great work should come out from that. So thank you.
Other questions or comments? Okay, we will see this next meeting. Thank you so much for all of this information. Our next item is 13C. This is a staff report 25-26 preliminary general fund budget brought to us by Joshua Braff.
I've been told that one of my strengths is being able to present complex ideas especially about finance and budgets, and make it digestible to other people. So I'm really going to put that to the test with this presentation. I also usually like to do presentations that are pretty brief and to the point, and so this one meanders through 15 pages. So let's get going. First off, the budget, same as always. Ours aligns with the state budget. It must be approved by June 30th. We plan to bring it back to you on the 24th, along with the LCAP. They go together. So, Trustee Gasson, you're talking about the 2013 school year. That's LCAP and LCFF came together at the same time. And part of that is that the LCAP has to be approved before the budget. It can be approved 1 minute before, but it must be approved before the budget. The LCAP is the strategic plan. The budget is what the strategic plan does, right? So what the budget is it's not a plan itself, right? It is, we make the plans, and this tells us, well, this is how much it costs to do that thing. If you don't want it to cost this much, change your plan. And in that way, the budget's also not a static document. That's why we bring updates to you each year, throughout the year. What goes into this? Of course, the LCAP. We also look at things like the teacher-to-student ratio and class size, and then we also have many different assumptions. I put the assumptions of ongoing costs, but it's across the board. All different types of programs, new programs, outgoing programs, cuts, additions, everything. And then, of course, the California state budget is a huge factor in this. I guess the largest factor when we're looking at the revenue. So getting into the revenue, the local control funding formula, LCFF, is going up by 2.3%, which is the COLA. The governor has proposed to fund that. We just heard recently that the legislature has agreed. Now, again, there's going to be negotiations, so anything that I'm talking about right now is just the legislature's counter proposal. The budget has not been signed by California government yet. I put what the per ADA amounts are up there, so that is 2.3% above what it was the year prior. We also use the School Services of California dartboard. It's also what's put into the LCFF calculator for our out-year COLA assumptions. We do not make those up ourselves. We are not at all qualified to make those up. They use 7 reporting points that we don't actually have access to. The COLA is a federal number that gets purposed for California. One of the largest portions of that is Social Security. So, of course, we don't have access to those numbers until the general public do. The TK add-on is budgeted at $5,400. That is the total. So we've been talking about the 10-to-1 add-on plus the original TK add-on. Those combined is $5,500. So not $5,500 in addition. It's right now $5,500. There's a couple other things that also get COLA in the state budget. Special education being one of those. Child nutrition, Fund 13, our FANS, food service, and the mandated block grant. But not everything, right? LCFF is the big thing. that gets it, and then there's some smaller things like the ones I listed here. And then there's a few that don't actually affect us at all, but are mostly the community college level. And then enrollment, we have it projected right now at 7,350, and ADA is projected at 96. 96 was where we were at right before COVID. So we are setting that really as a goal for ourselves, that we have in the past hit this number, but we have not hit this number in the last few years. So it will take work, but continuing the DLAC work, sorry, not DLAC, DCAN work. DLAC also, you guys are doing great stuff too. But DCAN work, continuing that. Right now, every student that misses a day costs our district around $80, okay, per student per day. Here's the revenue changes, and this is where I'm going to ask you to trust me and just come along for the ride, right? Because there's a lot of numbers. I'm not going to read every single number to you, but I wanted you to get a point here. Because back in 22-23, the district kind of made a historical change, and that was offering a salary increase to our classified and certificated members that were very high in comparison to anything that had been given prior to that. At that time, these were the projected COLAs. So in 22-23, there was a 6.5%, 5.38, 4%, and 3.72 for those 4 years. And that's always what you get. You get the year you're in plus 3 years, right? So that's what we knew at that time. So there was negotiated a 13.5% increase for one unit and a 15% increase for the other unit. A 5% increase for unrepresented. And so at that time, if enrollment would have stayed flat, because remember the LCFF is student amount, ADA, how many students you have, times LCFF amount, which is those numbers right here, right? So each group, little different numbers. You multiply that, that's how much LCFF dollars you get. So we're going to say, let's hold ADA flat. Let's pretend like student numbers just stayed the same as they did in 22-23. If that were true, then at the end of that 4th year, we would have $15.5 extra million in LCFF dollars, right? So we started out with, we'll just say 70 million. We ended with 85 million, and that's ongoing, 85 million a year forevermore. In 23-24, 6.5 is locked in. Now it changes to 8.22, right? Because they changed, the projections changed. So now it's actually 17 million extra dollars, 17.4 extra million dollars. We then negotiated a 5% increase and then a 0% increase because money had gone up. So we said, okay, this looks good, right? Well, then here comes 24-25, and we're hit with that 1% COLA. And that's how big of a change in projections that became. That we went from $17.4 million ongoing to $14.6 million. And then we just got hit again because instead of 2.93, it became 2.3. So now while no money was taken from us, that's not how you read this. This is all about projections. We originally projected at 15.5, and that at the height was 17.4. We're now projecting 14.1. So if it's 14.1 fantastic? Yes, it is. But we made plans based on 15.5 and then 17.4. And now we're at 14.1, which is a loss of ongoing, a minimum of 1.5 million and a maximum of 3.4 million. That's what this chart looks like. So yes, it's wild. It's a lot of colors. This is where I'm going to point to the parts that matter, right? I'm giving you all the background information so you can just look at it and enjoy it if you're someone like me who just wants to see all the data. But really, it's a couple points of what you're looking at is that on the green bar, 28-29, green bar, is that if everything would have, now I'm adding an extra few years to that because now this year we're projecting a few years more in the future. So if everything would have stayed through those 4 years, exactly what was predicted, and then we added 4 years onto that, we would have been at $24 million and then $26 million. Well, we're actually at $22.9 million. And again, $22.9 million, that's not a small amount of money. That's fantastic. But it is $1.6 million per year less than we had projected just a couple years ago. And that's $1.6 million per year, every year ongoing. So over this budgeting period, that's $4.5 million less than what we would have had. 1.5 per year. So that's important to understand that, to understand when we ask the question, wait, how did we go to have such big reserves to having such small reserves? I thought we had a bunch of money. Why, we gave too much. That's not what this is about. This is about that projections change quickly, and that's why we need a reserve to make sure that when those things happen, we can rebound, right? We have time to pivot. We aren't making each year decisions because we didn't 4 years ago. So really the important thing of this, bottom right corner of the green, bottom right corner of the green in both of those boxes. It's telling us what the difference is from projected from just a few years ago. Here's another important factor in that. This is an interesting one, and it's one we're going to be watching closely. And this slide is from School Services of California. That's why there's a whole bunch of words on it. But it basically says that because of some clever, some would say illegal, depends on which side of the aisle you're on here, budgeting from the governor and the allocation or the appropriation of Prop 98, I'm going to be on the side of it's wrong. It should be $118.9 million. And what Prop 98 says it's a 39 point whatever percent of the California budget has to go to education. Well, the LAO, California School Business, California School Board Association, CSBA, School Services of California, CASBO, every single organization has said it should be $118.9 million. Well, the governor and now the legislature have both said it's 117. So that will probably either get resolved or become a lawsuit soon, because that is an additional $214 per ADA that they owe to us if it is 118 and not 117. That's considerable, because for a school district the size of ours, that's about $1.5 million. What did I just talk about us losing, right? That makes up the difference right there. So that's an important thing for us to watch, and something that's unknown in this budgeting cycle right now. We are not budgeting for that money because there's no guarantee that we're going to get it, but I do think it's going to be a very big conversation in the coming year to try to win that back. State revenue. One-time grants were not that normal, and then all of a sudden they became very normal, and I put the history of them down below. And then now they've kind of tapered off, but what has been there is ELOP. ELOP is the big growth that's in there. That's now consistent. And then we have some new one-time grants. Current governor's proposal, one-time grants of about $2 million. Current legislature proposal, one-time grants of about $800,000. So it's about a $1.3 million one-time difference. We'll see which one wins there. We want the more money, of course. Expense assumptions. I put in some historical information about FTE and FTE growth, and sometimes it's called FTE creep, where we basically add something with one-time funding, or we add something with specialized funding, and then it becomes the norm, and then that funding goes away, and then we go, how could we ever live without it? And that's a lot of what has kind of happened here. And I put in the 2019 because that was pre-COVID. So the pre-COVID year, every category has grown. And what's also interesting to look at is the staff to student ratio. In 2019, it was 10.7 students to staff. Now it's 9.7 students to staff. Salary, benefits, and taxes right now are 80.5% of the budget. And you can see the breakdown there for each the major categories. This is also, I've gotten this question kind of a lot recently, just sort of talking about what NUSD has done to keep up with inflation. And We have built into the way that our salary schedules work is I think the name, salary schedule. And that's that they have steps. And steps are a raise. Every single year you go up a step, and that step is considered the raise that you get each year. And they equal somewhere between 2.5% to 3.5% for varying reasons at different ranges. And then there is the cost of living adjustment, right? We get a COLA from the state, and then there's also the cost of living adjustment that you take that whole salary schedule and you move it up, right? Because now you're taking inflation into factor. What I wanted to point out here was that in 13-14, that's when LCFF came online. So we started this in 13-14 because before that there was a COLA, but it was not implemented the same way. It didn't work the way it does now. So it's kind of hard to do is it the same from back then? And I put in the cost of living adjustment every year, the negotiated increases with CSEA, the negotiated increases with NFT, and you can see that on average, we are keeping above inflation. Now, yes, the 15% and the 13.26 did a good job of getting us up there, but we are staying ahead of inflation with our salaries. And what I did is I put on the right-hand side a narrative there that says that if somebody was hired in 2013-14 on range 1, step 1, AKA they were a brand new teacher, but they came to us for $47,753 a year, that same person would be, because of step, so every year they're moving up, just by staying with us, they would be at $102,381 going into next year. That would be an increase of 114% or 8.8% every year. If you minused out or factored in, however you want to look at it, inflation, that is still an increase of 56% or 4.33% over inflation every year. And then just as an FYI, so that you can see the comparison, the range for step 1 in 25-26 going into next year will be $71,199. Inflation says that it would be $65,489 if we were just keeping up with inflation. So we are beating inflation. So that's something that we can be proud of. The expense assumption is that the LCAP expense, spoken about by Dr. Senior just a minute ago, is $7.5 million. This year it was 6.7. A big reason for that is that the LCAP is 100% tied to your unduplicated count. And as we had talked about previously, our unduplicated count went from 39 to 49%. Again, that is not because we had a population change. That is because we actually were able to identify the people who need those extra services. So that is a fantastic job by our staff to get that done. Now we will, LCAP, the interesting thing about unduplicated is it's a 3-year average. So we don't see 100% of it year 1. And then it also is based on enrollment. So like it's not just percent, it's enrollment and then the percentage of that enrollment. So it could change from that. Site budgets, this is how much the sites are being provided by the district out of the LCFF, basically a carve out, $560,000. If we include all of the site-specific specialty grants and known donations, this is donations they already have that are rolling forward, it's actually $928,000, it's almost $1 million. Special education as a program is projected at $26 million, transportation at $3.2 million, and remember we get a 60% reimbursement from the state of California, so that's fantastic. And restricted maintenance is set at 3%. So for us to be able to receive bond reimbursement funds, we have to do a 3% restricted routine maintenance. We want to do that anyway. We want our sites to remain nice. So here's a snapshot of the MYP. So yes, it's very small up here. It looks normal on your sheets. But it does show that we do not make, budgets do not get certified. So it is not qualified positive or negative. A budget, it's just passed, right? So if this were to be certified, it would certify positive. We're saying that in the 3rd year out, we do have more than a 3% reserve. That is with all the information that we knew last week when we actually put this into the board packet, right? It changes really, really fast in June. We will do our best to keep up with it. But really the big changes come at first interim. That's when we know what our enrollment actually is. That's when we know what all the trailer bill language, we know all that, how it's going to affect us. These are all the factors. This is just a snapshot of a snapshot. I pulled out the information from the School Services of California dartboard. The full one is in the narrative for the budget. So if you want to see all the factors that we're using, some important ones to point out on here is that the STRS rate still remains flat. The PERS rate is actually lowered, and we see it lowering over the next like 10 years, which it's never right, but they're showing that it's going to be lowering. Which is great news, because all we saw is it's going up, 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 up. It finally is not going up. And then the last slide is that, of course, I talked a bunch about this as we went through. We don't know a lot of things. Right now, they're negotiating and debating the California budget. That will be locked in pretty soon. And then, of course, at the last meeting, I did a presentation on federal funding. Federal funding, we know even less. And that's a big one that's going to affect us, because it's not only the big ones like Title and IDEA, but also like Medi-Cal billing. What is that going to look like going forward? We don't know. And then also there's some lost federal grants that hit, like Marin County Office of Ed. We had applied for some, those were then taken away. But who knows now, with a lot of the court orders reinstating these grants, if those monies will actually come back to us, because those grants were awarded in a previous year. It's going to be interesting to see. We're not betting on it. It's not in the budget. It's just things we need to watch for. So what's up next is approval of the budget on June 24th. And then, of course, depending on how many changes happen between then and 45 days after, which is August 15th, we could have a 45-day revise, which is just a restatement of the budget saying, hey, we learned a whole bunch of things. And then, of course, after that, the what we like to refer to as the real budget, first interim. Any questions?
Back on the LCFF revenue assumptions, where you're talking about enrollment in ADA being projected at 96%, you were talking about getting back to pre-COVID levels. Can you share a little bit about what ADA has been for the last couple of years, and whether or not 96% is aggressive, and if you think there's a benefit to utilizing a higher enrollment at this time?
Yeah, so I think our peak was about 96.16 from what I was able to find. So it is a bit aggressive, but it isn't absurd or unreasonable. It seemed like we were hitting around 96, 95.89, places like that for a little while. Then COVID happens. 1 year is held harmless, which means we don't have any real numbers there. And then after that, it was like 94.5, 95. We hit a 95.5. This year was a little over 94.5. But we had some very unfortunate things in January, both sickness and federal questionable policies that had a lot of students staying home, a lot of families staying home, a lot of people moving. We don't expect that kind of thing to keep happening. And then hopefully sickness is not, just everyone stay healthy. Now 7350, that also is kind of in that range. We saw a really large growth this year over last year of about 120 students. We are now projecting this at a growth of about 50 more. We can say, like, right now, it does feel like it's on the too high side. However, we are not seeing the enrollment that we are expecting at some of our schools, and we think that they might be waiting until August to enroll, because they're nowhere near what the traditional numbers are. If we hit those, then we're going to be much closer to the numbers we expect. I think 7350 and 96 are aggressive, but they're also goals for us.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. When I start going through my package, I have this question, and then I turn the page. I'm like, oh, he answered it. So getting really good on like all these little things, and I look for. There was, and I'm not sure because I'm reading so many different things and different sources, and I'm wondering, the Capital Advisors presentation that I went to maybe be a piece of this, but when you were talking about the PERS and STRS rates, because those are so significant, and I lost my note on how much the dollar contribution is to that, and that's just such a heavy amount and obligation that we have no control over. Somewhere along the line, I was actually, I know PERS has always been able to fluctuate, and actually Capital Advisors has it going down one year and then going back up. So I feel like that's always an unpredictable thing, and even just a fraction of a percent on something that high is significant, and we're watching all these different dollar amounts as much as we can, with the idea that, again, I apologize, I don't have the source, but if PERS, or if STRS, no, which one? PERS, no, STRS can go up and fluctuate now. Do you know what the foundation is for what the percentage rates are when they project? Is it based on the economic, like how well their portfolios are doing, or?
Yeah, I'm at the limit of my knowledge on that one about like what really goes into that calculation. But I know one of the biggest things that they do talk about is actually how well the portfolios for CalPERS is doing. STRS is different. That's the one that's been held at 19.1 for a while. And all projections show that they're going to leave it there for a little while. But the PERS number is the one that varies wildly. And that one, they've opened up. Very recently, legislature has allowed them to invest in more growth markets. While that's riskier, it's also, especially right now, the stock market over the last few years has done very well. And so they've been able to recoup a lot of those gains. Or I guess recoup the losses with the gains that they've been able to make. So they haven't needed to increase the contribution by as much. The STRS on the other side, and the reason why it probably stays so low, is that the employee contributes more than on PERS, but that's because PERS also contributes to Social Security. So, the employer has to contribute more to prop up this number that also has, fire, rescue, EMTs, like all different types of workers in it, not just school employees, where STRS is just teachers.
Okay.
And
I
administrators.
think I was only asking because I was worried it was in alignment with the stock market, which I know has, we've had just this uncertainty and how things keep changing. I just was worried that we're going to get in a position where they're like, oh, we have to even increase it even more, which, hopefully
It's not just the stock market, though. That's one of the newer things that they allow them to invest in. It's really, they do a lot of long-term investments, bonds, like T-bonds and things like that. So much more safe investments, but that's also why it doesn't grow very fast.
Okay. Well, no, that's just helpful. I just want to be cautionary when and so there were a couple other things that I just wanted to put out there in terms of, as we're thinking about this going forward. And we got I think everybody's on the JLAC, the Ball and Frost email. We just got one today, which was interesting. And you may not even have an answer to this, but I was actually shocked because, to your earlier point about the funding, what we're supposed to get, it seems to be breaking apart. And that was part of the conversation during this budget presentation, is that there's the people that are representing us don't exactly understand it because it was from so long ago, and there's nobody there that understands the reasoning for the funding method. And so there's all this deferment of payments and all this stuff that's starting to get a little wonky that they were talking about. And so that I would actually even roll into, well, we'll eventually get it, but that's also to me a concern when we're looking at our numbers and everything is, okay, are they going to start playing with these buckets? And then I noticed, and I think I must have been wrong, but they said 30 million was going for Special Olympics from the Prop 28 or from Prop 98. And I'm like, okay, well, how does that go in there? So I just feel like we're starting to see where it's not the focus that it was intended to, I guess, in 2012, was that the year? So I don't know. I feel like there's more and more money that's like, okay, you have to spend it on this, and this is the expectation.
And this specific piece here, what's interesting about this is the Prop 98 guarantee. And that's the word that matters the most there, is guarantee. In other words, saying what the minimum they're allowed to spend on schools is. So one-time money doesn't hit that because this is ongoing money. So if they're going to do $80 million for Special Olympics, great. But is that ongoing? Because if it's ongoing, is it TK12, which is what the Prop 98 guarantees? So this piece right here is that they owe $214 per TK12 ADA ongoing forever. And that they haven't addressed. And I think that there's some confusion on that argument of like, yeah, but they're doing a lot of this one-time stuff. But that's exactly the antithesis of the point, is that it's not one time, it's ongoing.
Right.
So are you going to do that one time every single year forever? Because then that's fine, but there's no guarantee to that, and that's what they have to. This is what they have to hit per the California Constitution.
Right. And I'm getting the sense that people are just not understanding that, and it's starting to break apart a little bit. So anyway, I appreciate all that you put in here, and we'll see how we land.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Our next item is 13D. This is the 24 through 26 TK to 12 dual language immersion program plan update, brought to us by Dr. Sinyard.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for having me back up here. And Tanya Pearson, our multilingual coordinator, will be joining me this evening. Tonight, we're bringing back our DLI master plan with some more information, basically kind of addressing the need for the goals and metrics that cover the 24-25 school year, and kind of talk about our plans for the 25-26 upcoming school year. And so tonight, we're going to kind of go through our guiding principles that the 7 strands that we have discussed. We'll look at our goals and metrics and share some action items and kind of discuss our current staffing situation. Again, just kind of bringing to the forefront, our 3 major program goals include bilingualism, biliteracy, cross-cultural communication, and connections. And really focusing on ensuring that students, when they exit our DLI program, eventually at 12th grade, will be proficient in all of these areas. And so just to kind of get us started, we have the 7 areas of these guiding principles. And so we evaluate kind of right now, we're focusing predominantly on Linwood, San Jose, kind of working our way, building out through our high schools. Kind of what does our dual language immersion program look like? And we talk about the program structure, our curriculum, instruction, assessment and accountability, staff quality and professional development, family and community engagement, and our support and resources. And so kind of cover the first group. So some of these structures have numerous kind of points in them, about 3 to 4 per band, and kind of really working with our partners, our principals, ATDLE, our consultant, really kind of trying to address the key essential focus areas that we will work on in the coming school year. And so one of the big areas that we are discussing is our program structure. And before we kind of dive into where we are, I just want to thank everybody who has been incredibly engaged. I want to thank Lauren Menchavez. I want to thank Whitney McEckern. I want to thank Michelle and Ali, kind of really helping us look at what is this dual language immersion program, what it is right now and what it can be. And a huge thank you to all our parents who have helped us with ideas, with strategies, with everything that we need to make sure we're having a strong program. And so the first kind of piece is our program structure. And what does this look like to continually improve and get better? And so one of the big areas that we're talking about for the 25-26 school year is really how are we monitoring student progress? And so that's been a big question. How do you know our students are learning? How do you know that they are progressing in both English and Spanish? How do we know that what we're teaching is helping them achieve these 3 areas, or 3 goals? And so that's one of the big things we'll be working on in the coming school year. And so really looking at establishing checkpoints when students, reviewing what students are doing, when they're not meeting standard, what are we doing to support them in our instruction, and how are we really sharing with our families what our language development milestones are. And so I will let Tanya talk about curriculum.
Thank you. So, continuing with our curriculum, that our goal is that all, and really across all of our schools in Novato, that we have a guaranteed curriculum that matches standards, and that we're continuing to have our assessments and our targeted goals of teaching drive towards accomplishing those standards. Across all sites, the teachers have worked hard with our PBE and our and our CD and our CBE to identify key standards, and those are, with our multi-tiered systems of support, the standards that we look towards. What's great is that that is the template, and that is the work that we're doing at all sites. So that continuous improvement that is grounded in assessment details, that teachers work together to notice who is ready and who's outperforming, is the structure that we embrace at all our sites. Now, however, what does that look like within a DLI program and within the dual immersion? So the work, especially this year in Linwood, that they've worked on is how to make sure that the assessments and that the work that they're doing with the curriculum is targeting the language goals that we have with our percent 90-10 model in kinder, 80-20 in first grade, third grade, and fourth grade. Again, that's described within our PLC process. So making sure that we have that. Our one goal is by the end of this next year that all of that curriculum, which I was talking about as like a guaranteed quality curriculum, is mapped out in the curriculum maps. So that regardless of what grade classroom a student might be in, they will be able to have that curriculum, and that the staff is noticing, modeling and modifying if they need to, with making some adjustments on our assessments and what the standard or what the target is, but that will be clear within what we'd call data cycles. So I'm trying to say what's the unique part for DLI, because this is really like what we live in all schools. So making sure that, however, that the assessments as we bring in the dovetailing between what we're teaching, we're making sure that our assessments are not just waiting till the end of a year or the end of a unit, but that really the assessing is happening every day with what is formative assessments. And so it's this model of teachers doing careful work to see what the curriculum is, make sure that we're mapping it out, and that they're really making strategic assessments at the end of unit cycles, and then adjusting and not giving up, not just noticing the trends, but saying, well, how do we make sure that everyone's getting up to where we need to be so that our target is being met, that students are making progress in both languages, solid progress, meeting the pathway points for the 5th grade, 8th, and eventually towards the seal of biliteracy. Frankly, that would be a goal for every student in all of Novato Unified, but those at the DLI program and the supported pathway program of San Jose and Novato, that's going to be our, like I say, our crown jewel of our seal of biliteracy attainers, I'll call it. The curriculum that we have currently will continue. So at Linwood, they work with the Maravillas, and at San Jose Middle School with Antidotas. So that's what was used 2 years ago and has been the adopted curriculum. This school year, we've had the Spanish elective taught in Spanish, but it's with more of an arts, the arts focus. This upcoming year, the curriculum will be Spanish language arts, so grounded in the actual standards of language acquisition, and will therefore be more of that curricular type elective. We'll talk a little bit more about the program as far as our course offerings of how to do that. So again, within those curricular systems, there are targets, there are mid, beginning, and end of the year assessments, and then what's great is that beyond that packaged program, our staff will continue to say, where might we need a little different type of assessment or different kind of supplemental curriculum that will be brought in. The review of the curriculum will happen every year. But throughout the year, by the end of the year, did this work? What was working? What was needed? Is there something different that we need to keep on mind? And in high school, they will continue also with their, I'm forgetting right now the program name, with the Keshavere. So again, those are adopted within our system already. It won't be something that we need to bring something new to, but we'll be happy to share if we have some sort of supplemental or some reason that we're looking to analyze and look for a different type of curriculum or pilot as the years go on.
Thank you. In terms of instruction, this is going to be a key area for us to focus upon for the 25-26 school year. And so as you see the plan, this says work to come, work to come. Here, I want to thank our consultants from ATDLE who have really helped us kind of brainstorm around what does high quality instruction look like, and also how this fits in with the Center for Educational Leadership and looking at, again, high impact tier 1 strategies, not only for all students, but again, in language development and across the board. So definitely more to come on the instruction lens. And then in terms of assessment and accountability, kind of talked about it, you've heard me say, okay, we're building this robust data infrastructure system. And one of the big questions folks have asked is like, how are you monitoring our kiddos in the DLI program as they're moving across the grade levels? What does this look like when children are transitioning from the 5th to 6th grade level? And so kiddos who stay in the program, how are they progressing on key indicators? So one of the things that we've talked about that we are researching and looking into is kind of some supplementary curriculum as well and additional testing. And one of the testing components that we're looking at is called SOMOS, and through the STAMP model, and really trying to hone into language progression. So specifically at that. So that's something you're going to hear us talk about in the coming school year. Again, as Tanya has mentioned, our key summative, formative assessments, what are those going to look like and how are we reporting those to our families so everybody's clear with where our kiddos are throughout the school year. I think one of the big exciting things that we're talking about for next year is the California Seal of Biliteracy Tracker. And so Tanya's gonna be really busy this summer, kind of working on some great tracking programs and really creating a system where folks know, okay, here, this is the pathway that we need to do. We're very clear of what the TK through 12, or TK, honestly, some students might be finished in the 10th grade by earning a Seal of Biliteracy. If students have taken the AP exams in 10th grade, that would be a huge, wonderful win. So being really clear about what all those trajectories look like.
Can I speak a tiny bit?
Oh yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's particularly with that, within those trackers, not only for families to understand the progress and if they're on track for getting the Seal of Biliteracy, it's that students will also be really heavily involved with that. This year we did more work around our LCAP goals with self-reporting goals and progress monitoring that adults and kids worked on together. And within that system, like I said, could every student become interested in becoming bilingual? We'll have some portfolios throughout the district with various groups, but our DLI students will be able to track even those that maybe are already now in middle school. Well, frankly, those in middle school, there'll be a part where they can look back over their years at Linwood. And then after that TK5 strong DLI program with the 90-10 all the way to 50-50 model, from 6th to 12th grade, there's a variety of pathways that people can take with coursework that's official. So most middle schoolers out of Linwood are going to San Jose Middle School, but those that go to Sinaloa or Hamilton or some other school, we'll encourage them with pathways that they can do outside of an official academic class, perhaps with online learning, different community and events, internships, programs. And so students will have those goals as targets, and families will also be able to choose from some menus that continue to encourage lifelong learning of language, and not to have to just say what's the official, but how can we also be creative so that we try to help students look towards a more immersive experience, even within the community that's not necessarily all Spanish or all English speaking at a given time. So how to help us get creative, and that students themselves, therefore, in their portfolio, it's a blend of showcase, reflection, and assessment data. So being able to say, what is a couple work samples per year in both languages? What's the assessment data shown so that students can see it? And what are some of the things that they were proud of or extra creative around in applying their language skills? And then longitudinally keeping that tracker throughout their career here at Novato Unified School District, which would then be used to prove that they did earn in some sort of a capstone process by 12th grade, which we're not there yet with our current students, but we will be.
One of the other guiding principles is staff quality and professional development. We will continue with our partnership with ATDLE, continuing to work with SEAL strategies at Linwood. One of the goals too, we're going to talk about staffing at the middle school in just a second here, and the teacher that we have identified for the 6th grade portion of Spanish language arts will definitely go down and work with Linwood and be in all the trainings. One of the things that we really want to talk about is creating this, again, TK through 12 vertical articulation where the teams are coming together, reviewing all the information that we have, again, needs assessments from them, and really continuing to build out our professional development opportunities and recruitment strategies. In addition to kind of training the San Jose teacher who will come, also in AVID ELD strategies, because one of the big things that we want to look at too is, are we missing any potential newcomers or English learners who are proficient in their own language, and really recruiting them into the program as well. To, if students are proficient in their native language, fantastic. We're going to help you get the English proficiency as well and kind of expand the program in that respect as well.
One more jump in. Last night I was so excited. I was at the English Learner Awards ceremony at Novato High School, and students got different awards, but one that stood out where I just got so sparked by was that there had been a high school student and there were some interns. So there was not CTE, but an internship type model pilot that started from Novato High School students that were going to Linwood, doing some tutoring and some support within classrooms. And one of the students is now looking to become a teacher, and sort of through that pipeline is interested and looking into that teacher recruitment and such. So got an award for just being a teaching assistant, and now hopefully a future educator too. So.
One of the other big areas, I think I forgot to switch the slide, excuse me, it's kind of a family and community engagement. And one of the things that we really want to do and ensure that we're doing in the coming school year is expanding our family and community engagement. This year we had strong presence at our district DLI committee, want to continue with that. Dates are coming out. On the next slide, I'll tell you when our first meetings are. We will have 2 meetings. We're going to vary our locations. We're going to be at Linwood, we're going to be at San Jose, at Novato High School, really trying to create a step-up day as well, something similar to when the 8th graders go over to the high school, having our 5th graders come over to San Jose and having a big event, something along those lines where kids can talk to kids in the program, experience some fun activities, and really kind of work with our community folks and our parents and guardians to really bring in more involvement and more voices into our program. And finally, the last thing that we want to kind of talk about is our support and resources. And as Tanya has mentioned, with our curriculum and continuing to look at our curriculum and what our need is, we are excited for Linwood for the ELA adoption. Linwood, we have Linwood staff who has been piloting some of our curriculum, really look at the Spanish resources, and more to come on that one. So exciting stuff in the future, knowing that as we're building our program at the middle school, what other additional supports and resources they will need. So that's going to be something constantly that we are talking about. Okay, and then finally, before we get to the questions and comments, I want to talk about staffing. And so one of the challenges, I think the biggest challenge of our program has been finding staff that are qualified with the appropriate credentials to meet all the needs that we have. Linwood has done an incredible job. Linwood is fully staffed at this time, very exciting. We have struggled continuously at San Jose. We had a candidate lined up. Unfortunately, that candidate withdrew their application. And so we have been able to identify a teacher from Novato High School who will be placed at San Jose in the 6th grade core program. This individual will unfortunately doesn't have all the credentials that we need just yet, but she will be teaching English language arts and a Spanish language arts curriculum, not an art elective, Spanish language arts. So need to make sure that that's been stated. We know we still have students in the 7th and 8th grade who are interested in Spanish. Right now, the numbers are not huge. We will be making individual parent phone calls to the students who have said they are interested in continuing with their Spanish development, and also reaching out to some other folks to see what we can do. 10 students is small to run courses, but we have a number of potential opportunities that we can continue to look at should interest still be there. So we're excited. We're going to start tackling that in the coming days. We are sending out our newsletter tomorrow, explaining that to all our DLI families, and we'll be in touch with them immediately. And again, just for the date for our first parent meeting, September 17th, 2025 at Linwood at 9 a.m. So.
And also at 5:30 that same day.
Also at 5:30. And again, I can't thank everybody enough here for all the time folks have put into the DLI plan. Appreciate parent input and feedback, and would answer any questions that anybody might have.
I just have a comment. I just want to thank you so much for all the work that went into the SMART goals on the last couple of pages. I'm really impressed. It's really what I was expecting. You've identified the issues, so I really appreciate that. I know it's been really hard recruiting, but I stand by you that y'all have done all the right things. Last year, y'all were going to different recruiting events throughout Sonoma County and Marin County. And I know that it's hard, but I think we're making progress with this new plan. And I'm really excited to see where it's going to go. And I hope our parents are happy that we've been collaborating with them, and there's been a lot of communication. So I really want to thank the San Jose folks and the Linwood folks for all the work that went into this. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Thank you so much for this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is 13E, School Safety Report, brought to us by Mike Saisi.
All right, good evening again. I am here this evening to provide an update on the safety information that I previously shared with you on December 17th. As you may remember, there were several key areas identified at the end of last year that we aimed to address this year. During our district leadership team meetings over the summer, we formed dedicated teams to focus on each of those areas. And one of those areas was around cell phones. And so I'm going to be going into this a little bit later in another report, but we did have a cell phone committee. We met 6 times, and tonight we are bringing a board policy for a first reading. I do have some updated information for you with regard to infractions. So you'll notice that in 2023-24, there were 360 infractions with mobile devices. This year we've had 582, which seems like a huge jump. It is a big jump. I attribute that to consistent protocols and how we're dealing with the mobile devices. I know I didn't do it for this information, but I know the last time I presented, we had very few repeat offenders, which I thought was good. I can get you that information if you want, but I was not able to get it for this presentation. The bullying infractions, last year we had 79 infractions, and this year we've had 44. So these are the ones that are entered into ARIES under the Ed Code of bullying. So again, we've had 44 infractions. That's a decline of 44% this year. And then the online bullying complaint form. So this is the form that the parents, sometimes students fill them out, but mainly it's parents fill out, and it goes directly to the administrator, and then it comes to me as well. And then the administrator investigates the situation and determines if it was bullying, if there needs to be restorative practices or consequences, and then that gets logged into ARIES. Last year we had 12 of those. This year we've had 10 of them. The last time I stood up here, there was a question around, like, do parents know about this form and how do they know about it? So we made a concerted effort in January to push it out in the principal newsletters to make sure that parents were aware of the form. And then the one thing that is not in the slideshow that I did want to update you on is the Stop It app data. So it's the anonymous reporting system. That has gone up from 40, when a student reports something on the Stop It app, they type in what's happening, but they can also choose from a number of categories that they are categorizing their incident as, and one of them is bullying. And so last year we had 47 of those, and this year we've had 54 of them. Now those go directly to the administrator, and then same thing, the administrator investigates it, and if it is something that needs restorative practices or consequences, that gets logged into ARIES, and sometimes they find out that it's unsubstantiated, and so it's not, it was a report, but there was either no truth to it, maybe it was a false report or something else having to do with that. So it did go up, but like I said, the actual infractions that are getting documented by administrators, those went down. Physical altercations. So these are altercations between students. These numbers here are not actually the number of physical altercations. These are the number of students that were involved in physical altercations. So you can see it's broken down by elementary, middle, and high school. And those have gone down significantly. They've gone down from 137 students being involved down to 74, which is a 46% decrease. And then I also included the lower level altercations. So I give an example of two students not necessarily getting into a fight with each other, but they're arguing with each other, and maybe they are pushing each other, and then an adult intervenes. Those have gone down significantly as well. We had 66 students last year, and now we have 38 students, which is a 42% decrease. Hate speech, as I think you know, we developed protocols this year around hate speech, and we have a documenting system. This information is all from this year. So so far we've had 78 incidents. Elementary and middle school and high school, we've had very few that have been documented. And what I think is important to note is that the other side of the slide is the incidents that are directed at an actual victim. So of the 78, there were 29 victims. I went through the data yesterday just to see how many repeat offenders do we have. And of the 78, there's been 4. So what we're doing, like when it happens and when the administrators are dealing with it, it seems to be working because we've had very few repeat offenders. And then our next steps moving forward, for the mobile devices, I had mentioned that I'm going to be up here in a little bit talking about new board policy, and we will also be looking at our protocols and procedures to see if there needs to be any changes to those. The bullying, just to continue to work on our communication out to our families and students on ways that they can report, and then look into training for staff. Physical altercations, continue to implement what's been working, our restorative approach and education. And I didn't put it in here, but I think a big portion of this is around relationships that staff has with students. And then the final thing is hate speech. So we are going to be piloting a program with Tanisha Tate called Critical Friends, Culture of Belonging at the elementary school level. And then it says Director of Student Services will meet with the Hate Speech Committee to get updates and refine protocols. I've already done that. So that was a couple of weeks ago. They felt, the committee felt like the protocols were going well. They just wanted more education around it for the students at the elementary and middle school level. And I think that's it, unless there's questions.
Thank you so much. I know you've been working so much on all of these different elements, and to put it into perspective, I wrote at the top of my sheet that this impact is for 7,400 students and like 13 sites. So it's a lot of kids, and when you look at the numbers too, the fact that they're going down, but we're talking about, we have a really large district here in terms of how many students that you're helping us oversee. Having said that, I'm glad you mentioned the Stop It app, and I think I asked about it before. That's only at the middle school?
It's only at the middle school, yes.
Okay, and I think we had a conversation about maybe doing something at the high school level?
It's another conversation to have with the high school folks.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in terms of like, I don't know if it fits on the next steps, but that,
Any info on why it's only at middle school? Sorry.
It was, so my first year we had that discussion around it, and they felt like they wanted students to feel more comfortable coming in to talk to them as opposed to reporting it anonymously. So they wanted to establish those relationships with kids so that they felt more comfortable coming in and reporting it in person.
yeah, I think it would be nice to have it at the high school level. I know that my kids are kind of skeptical. They still think that there's a way to track them down or something, but I think my experience currently is that there are some things that I think we could prevent if a student just had the opportunity to send like an anonymous tip. That's just me, and I personally would like to see that it is maybe looked at for the coming year. The other thing, so at our North Marin Council PTA meeting, there was conversation that was brought up, and you and I have had conversations. Actually, I took the notes out that I had from January, because we're doing a lot of good work in terms of consistency across all of our sites and having the discipline matrix. And I know we're gonna maybe talk a little bit about that in the, I don't know if it's the next section, but with the response to the grand jury. But I think even that has some elements of, we're focusing on the behaviors, but then there's what happens to the students, the individuals that might have been harmed. And I would kind of, again, you've been doing a lot of work, and maybe over the summer, if there's an opportunity to look at how, broaden out what we're doing in terms of being able to communicate to families, because there is that privacy issue, that we can't say what's happening to a student. And so there's that frustration in the community frequently that they feel like nothing's being done or that they're not being told. But going back to the conversation that you and I had in January, I think it would be nice if we had some things that we could help support the understanding, or messaging out that can go, or broader conversations in a classroom, just to support the entire classroom and community. Because that's, for me, again, it came out at North Marin Council. It's come out to me in a couple of times, and then tonight's comments as well. I think we're doing a lot of good work, but there's that missing piece that I would like to see if we can't try to encompass in this.
And one of the things that we've been talking about, because I've been at many of those same meetings, is providing more training and support for administrators so that we have more consistent response and messaging around bullying specifically.
Otherwise, I appreciate this. And also just, I know we're going to go into it next, but having your position and role has just been so amazing. And when I came on the board, the fact that they took this away, I just remember thinking, this is just crazy, because you touch so many, our students in so many different ways, between the sports, the, helping the sites with all these types of things, tracking everything, and just the way that you do it. I just really appreciate it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Okay, thank you. Our next item is 14A. This is the approval of NUSD's response to the 24-25 Marin County Civil Grand Jury Report dated April 8th, 2025. Feeling safe at school. Let's get educated.
All right, this is technically written on here as my item because the report did come to me, but it also went to the board, and the board has generously given their time to study some of the issues that were presented in this report. And Leslie and Mike, of course, were the staff members present.
Thank you. As Dr. Smith mentioned, this is the response to the Marin County Grand Jury Feeling Safe at School, Let's Get Educated, that we received on April 8th. And so the response to the report overall is asking the Board of Trustees and the Superintendent to maintain a clear focus on consistency and training around discipline, using security resources effectively, and improving communication. The grand jury report provided 4 findings and 6 recommendations, and our response was provided on the required template along with a detailed response, a detailed accompanying addendum to that.
Okay. NUSD sincerely appreciates the grand jury's diligence, oversight, and service to the community. We take the findings and recommendations on the report with the utmost seriousness and are committed to using its insights to strengthen our policies, procedures, and accountability measures. A dedicated subcommittee of the board convened multiple times to carefully review the report, discuss its implications, and identify opportunities for improvement. These conversations have been thoughtful and forward-thinking, grounded in shared commitment to transparency, student-centered decision-making, and continuous improvement. We recognize that this report highlights areas where we can do better. While much of that work has been done and is continuing to be done, we intend to keep this work front and center as we move forward. On a personal note, I'd like to share my experience this year as both a weekly lunchtime volunteer and parent at Sinaloa, as a lot of the report talks about Sinaloa specifically. The transformation from last school year to this one has been truly remarkable. The staff at Sinaloa put tremendous effort into shifting the overall energy and attitude on campus. Their commitment to creating a device-free environment was significant, as it was at many other campuses, and their consistent messaging and actions to confront bullying and racial name-calling were clearly evident. They also had a strong, sustained focus on mental health, positive behavior reinforcement, and fostered joy and a welcoming atmosphere. I know that the staff at Sinaloa felt supported by the district leadership. It was a genuinely collaborative effort, and I'm incredibly proud to be part of the Sinaloa community and deeply grateful for every member of our the school staff and their dedication.
So if it's okay, I just want to take a little step back and explain, because I don't think, I'm tired, so maybe I missed it, but there was a subcommittee made up of Trustee Jacobson, myself, and Trustee Alexander that worked together to develop the response to this, and that's why we're independently responding to each of the sections. So I just wanted, because we're going to be popping around, and so this is my slide. So this is one of the findings. This was finding 1 about the inconsistent use of available security-related resources and the lack of enforcement of smartphone restrictions contributed to a failure to prevent physical injury of students leading up to and during a 2024 fight at Sinaloa Middle School. So we responded to this in 2 ways. We partially disagreed with the inconsistent use of available security-related resources, and we determined that through the course of our conversation as this group, that we have had a continuing relationship with North Bay Security Group, who I see is represented back there, and we had reinstated the SRO School Resource Officer Program in 2017. And there are joint meetings between the groups and our staff, along with established security protocols and procedures that have been in place and continually adjusted based on best practices. That particular situation they're referring to, there was a lot of elements that went into it. It was not from not using the available resources. The second part we did agree to, the lack of enforcement of smartphone restrictions. Sorry, I didn't write that part of mine. Oh, no, I did. We agreed in June of 2024, NUSD implemented grade level cell phone guidelines, as highlighted by Trustee Jacobson. And we have tonight, I think, passed the mobile communications devices policy. And I'm actually going to recommend that we incorporate the passage within this element.
Okay, finding 2, there was inconsistent application of our NUSD discipline matrix, which resulted in an initial recommendation for harsher discipline, then required for some of the students involved in the 2024 fight at Sinaloa Middle School. And our response is agree. We are happy to report back that the discipline matrix has been revised to create a more accessible and user-friendly tool. It's a single page, it's easy to reference, and it has been updated and implemented across all levels. And site administrators were directly involved in reviewing and refining the matrix to ensure clarity and consistency in its application.
Can I also add something to that? Sorry. So part of the work we did as a subcommittee was not just to answer their form response requirement, but also look at what our internal practices can be and where they can grow. And this was a place where we spent a lot of time conversing around how we can make it more user-friendly, something that's accessible not just to administrators, but have a cheat sheet for teachers of what they need to be sending up the chain or not, etc. So the work was not just about answering the required form, it was also about how do we move forward as a district.
So it's going to be a little redundant, I think, then too now. The lack of familiarity with the NUSD discipline matrix and other conduct policies among staff of Novato Unified School District high schools resulted in the belief by nearly a third of staff that the rules around hurting other people, for example, bullying, hitting, and pushing, are not clear. So we agreed, well, I'm still going to read what I was going to say. As the board has seen over the past year, we have been adjusting to make our practices clearer and easier to follow, including the draft of the one-page discipline matrix, which has been referenced, and that had been presented December 17th, 2024 for each grade level. And then the matrix is also to be regularly reviewed by site leadership in staff meetings. So that's an added element that we thought may be happening, but we just wanted to reiterate that it should be happening.
Okay, finding 4 was the lack of publicized process by the Novato Unified School District Board of Trustees for follow-up after members of public comment during NUSD Board of Trustee meetings has resulted in the perception that these comments are not considered. While it has been our practice for staff to long practice for staff to follow up with individuals who make public comment on non-agendized items, starting in January of this year, we began explicitly stating this at the onset of the public comment period. We've also clarified that in accordance with the Brown Act, the board may not respond to comments on items not listed on agenda during the meeting itself. However, we are permitted to direct staff. We have made a standing commitment to ensure that staff follows up on all public comments.
So recommendation 1 versus a finding, this is what they suggested. They require consultation with North Bay Security Group and or the Novato Police Department School Resource Officer when there are threats of violence, disruption, or safety breaches. Am I okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, I saw you. This recommendation has been implemented. As mentioned earlier, we have had a longstanding partnership with North Bay Security Group and Novato Police Department and hold regular meetings, which now include Marin County Probation Juvenile Services to support coordinated safety efforts. We also have implemented Safe Team as a resource, which is specialized assistance for everyone. It's an emergency medical technician and crisis intervention specialist, which I now understand from Leslie. There's actually information on the City of Novato's webpage, which is great. And then we've also developed an emergency safety flow chart to guide staff response, which will be reviewed and implemented next year to ensure clarity and preparedness.
All right, so recommendation number 2 was to implement a plan to conduct annual training for all teachers and administrators and track this training with documentation available for performance improvement to ensure understanding of the discipline matrix and student conduct policies and consequences. And we said this recommendation has not yet been implemented, will be implemented in the future. And then as part of our ongoing efforts to ensure equitable and consistent disciplinary practices across the district, I will be working with administrators on the proper use of the discipline matrix, and this training will focus on aligning responses to student behavior with the established guidelines, promoting fairness and clarity in disciplinary decisions. And then principals will be reviewing the discipline matrix with their staff, as well as student conduct policies and consequences. This will include what teachers should do when there is a minor or major infraction, and that is done in the classroom, and when and how to get support from administrators. And this is usually done with staff at the beginning of the year. And then recommendation number 3, implement a procedure to annually assess adherence to NUSD's behavior policies and consequences. We said this recommendation requires further analysis. I'm going to be reviewing the discipline matrix with administrators throughout the year during our normal assistant principal meetings, and then I also do site visits with principals. We will take random sample discipline entries to talk about how the matrix was used and when an infraction occurred and what steps were taken to correct the behavior prior to discipline being implemented.
Recommendation 4 is add a process for public comment follow-up to the Novato Unified School District Board of Trustees Governance Manual. Well, it is our practice to follow up, for staff to follow up with individuals who make public comments on non-agenda public comment. Starting in January of this year, we began to, I'm reading the wrong section, so sorry. Okay. In addition to the steps previously outlined in finding 4, which I spoke of a few minutes ago and just tried to read a second time, we have also updated the public comment information included in the board agenda that states, quote, "The board shall take no action or engage in discussion on any item not appearing on the posted agenda, except as permitted by law, Ed Code 35145.5, Government Code 54954.2. The superintendent and staff will respond to speakers within 48 hours, end quote. This revision reinforces our commitment to transparency, compliance with legal requirements, and a timely follow-up with members of the public.
So recommendation number 5, publicize the process for following up on public comments at every NUSD Board of Trustees meeting, and this has been implemented, I think, as was said before, in January 2025. The board meeting protocols were updated to strengthen public engagement and follow-up. And then, as was just read for recommendation number 4, beginning in May 20th, 2025, the public comment section of the board agenda was updated to include Ed Code 3514555, which says that the board shall take no action or discussion on any item not appearing on the posted agenda except as allowed by law. And then the superintendent and staff will again respond to speakers within 48 hours.
Okay, recommendation 6. At each Novato Unified School District Board of Trustee meeting, summarize actions on behalf of public commenters from prior meetings within the boundaries of applicable laws and privacy requirements. And I'm sorry, I neglected to read our response to the sections I have handled. In this case, this recommendation will not be implemented. It will not be, many of the topics raised during non-agendized public comments fall under legally protected categories such as personnel matters or issues involving student privacy as governed by Education Code, FERPA, and California Government Code. In general, there is an established process for addressing complaints which begins at the classroom or site level and progresses through appropriate administrative channels. Additionally, the district's uniform complaint process is available to all stakeholders upon request, ensuring that concerns are addressed in a structured, legally compliant manner. We want to emphasize that we will take all concerns brought forward by our community seriously, and we are committed to ensuring that they are addressed appropriately. At the same time, it is important to recognize that public comment, while an important form of expression, may not always reflect the full context or actions that have already been taken behind the scenes. Because many matters involve sensitive or confidential information, open session is not the appropriate forum for a detailed follow-up. That said, we are committed to ensuring that every concern is followed up on by staff in a timely, respectful, and appropriate manner.
And some closing thoughts. We highly recommend sharing this information with other districts, as the Marin Civil Grand Jury Report presents Novato Unified School District as a case study in how a school district can respond to a violent campus incident with a renewed focus on safety, discipline, and communication.
Okay, we'll take any questions or comments from the board, and then we have 2 public commenters. Trustee Gasson?
I just wanted to say, that was the official part. Unofficially, I think that this ended up being a really good team, and I'm so grateful for Leslie and Mike because we really threw a lot of stuff at them. Julie and I come from 2 different places, and it was great having Chandra on there because she's newer, and so it was like a really good balance of different. I'm sure we drove you guys nuts, but I just wanted to say that it was a really good experience, and I think that we again didn't just look at what was said in there, but made it so that our responses were accurate and stuff that we could genuinely do and we wanted to do. And so I just wanted to say that and thank both of you and the 2 of you for the work.
Sorry, I just have a quick question. So for F1 through F3, those specifically stated Sinaloa Middle School, are those just 4, or is that all of NUSD that we were talking about?
It's all of NUSD that's being talked about. Sinaloa specifically called out as an example of a time that something went wrong.
All right, perfect. Just want to make sure.
Yeah. Let's hear from our 2 public commenters. We have Tiana Naples, followed by Claire Tyler. I do not see Tiana. I'm sorry. Our meeting has gone long. We did want to hear from her. Hopefully she will send us an email if she is listening out there. Claire Tyler, would you like to join us at the center microphone?
Should I wait for them to start the? Okay. Hi, my. Hi, my name is Claire Tyler. I'm the PTA president at Sinaloa Middle School. So boots on the ground there for the last year and very involved as a parent. And I want to highlight how far our school has come in the last year. Echoing a lot of Julie's sentiments. Immediately over the summer, you know, we appreciate the grand jury report, and so much of what came out in this report was already being worked on, and all of this work sort of began over the summer immediately. So our superintendent led efforts to revise and clarify district policies and the discipline matrix, ensure consistency throughout the district, both, you know, horizontally between the middle schools and between the high schools, and vertically between all the grades as well. And I was part of the parent group that sort of gave initial feedback on that at one of the North Marin Council meetings. I think Diane was there as well. And then on our site, under the extraordinary leadership of our admin team with Miss Ellie Marsh, our principal, Mr. John Mattern, our assistant principal, there has been a much more positive and supportive vibe on the campus this year. The schedule has been adjusted to include social emotional learning. There's been a big push to reward positive behavior and call out the good and the positive and the beneficial things that our students are doing. A new anti-bullying policy has been implemented. Our state award-winning wellness hub, by the way, we won this California State PTA award for our wellness hub.
Oh, wow.
Has been in use, and we have bilingual counselors as well. And then Sinaloa staff and parents spearheaded the hate speech policy that's been adopted district-wide now. Overall, leading to improved student relationships, reduced bullying, and a better overall school culture. And I just want to say that I don't expect any staff follow-up to my public comment. I just want to express my gratitude. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, this is an item we are voting on adoption of the response. Suddenly worried it's a roll call, but I think it is not. Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve this item? Trustee Alexander with a first, thank you, and a second by Trustee Gasson. All those in favor? 6, none opposed. Thank you so much. Thank you, staff, for your assistance as well. Okay, our next item is 14B. This is the approval of the 25-26 bell schedule for all secondary schools.
Okay. Guys are doing great. You're hanging in there. Okay, good job. And want to thank everybody. Want to thank Principal Green for being here, who can help answer any questions that you might have. But tonight we're bringing forth our secondary bell schedules. They are static with the exception of Novato High School, and San Marin has a tiny, tiny little change on a rally schedule where they switched lunch and fourth period. So that's the only difference from the current San Marin schedule. But we are tonight presenting a different schedule for Novato High School. And just kind of give you a little background, during our school year this year, there were some concerns surrounding access period, and was this the best use of an intervention period for our students at Novato High School? We had conversations, we talked about it at our high school principal meetings, and in spring of 2024, Novato High School really started diving into looking at their schedule to see if there was other possibilities that would meet the needs of students in a better fashion. And this kind of led to a school-wide process of talking about, can we do things differently? We want to look at potentially extending our staff time on our Wednesdays to have more opportunities for professional development, data discussions, looking at different ways to support our students. And some of the key things that kind of came out from this spring kind of surge was we did try a pilot situation for having our access period at Novato High School to be voluntary rather than mandatory. With the voluntary period, this does not count in our instructional minutes, but the schedule before you has been reviewed. Thank you very much to Derek Lowe for all his hard work and counting our instructional minutes and making sure that we have done everything accordingly. All the schedules do meet the mandatory instructional minute requirement. And basically, there's just a rationale for a change at Novato High School. San Marin felt that they had kind of revamped access period, thought they could do some more work around that, and really did think it was useful at this time. And so Novato High School staff did not feel the same. And in that respect, we will see a little bit of variation between the two schedules. Basically, kind of as we move forward, if the schedule is approved, if the bell schedule is approved, we will continue to kind of look at this information for next year. We're going to continue to gather feedback from staff, students, and families. And we're going to look at our outcomes and kind of with this voluntary access period, are we seeing improvement in student scores? How are students feeling about this change? How is staff feeling about this change? And additional time for collaboration, working together on our Wednesdays. And so I will bring Allie up here if anybody has any questions that I cannot answer, but I am asking for approval of the secondary bell schedules this evening.
Questions, comments?
Thank you. And Ally, I'm so sorry you're here. I know you're here because of me.
I have questions.
Okay. I feel bad. So I totally, as a mom at Novato High and being on the board of the PTSA, I totally understand, and I'm good with the access period change. I get it. I think my issue is strongly with the change in the day for the kids. I knew that there was changes that were going to be made for the coming year. Again, I feel like our leadership, you know, they have the best view in terms of what works best for their students and campus, but the extended day that for many of the days goes until 3:55 is super long. And that just really caught me off guard, quite frankly. And I know that part of it hinges on the fact that we have a law in California that classes cannot start before 8:30. I remember when we were transitioning through all of that and the conversations with the parents and families about how late the day was going to then be, because you've got kids that are in after school activities, sports, in the wintertime, you know, almost 4 o'clock, it's going to be dark within, 45 minutes or so to do sports or other activities. So that's a huge concern for me, that it's that late. I just think it's way too late. It was responded to me that the bus schedules were checked. Having worked with Safe Routes to School for quite a long time and with TAM, I don't know if the busing situation's gotten better, but that was another concern. It's my understanding that that will not be a problem, but with the kids getting out later, so I feel a little bit better about that. And it's only 15 minutes, but it's 15 minutes that pushes everything into, you can't get anywhere at 4. And especially when I know high school isn't as big of an issue, but it is really hard to find appointments that you can make after 4 o'clock. Medical appointments, just all kinds of things. And so it just, for me, just an added layer of why I really don't support that late of an afternoon for the kids. So open to hearing or understanding how that happened. I think too, another element that I'm concerned about is that the public doesn't know, and I'm not quite sure how this will go over with the community. So.
Don't apologize. I'm happy to be here. We had our staff party earlier, so if I'm a little rough around the edges, that's why. So how can I help alleviate your concerns? Like what specifically?
I mean, I wish that, I don't know, could we have polled people? Can we explain? I mean, I just don't understand why we have to go so late for the kids. And part of me recognizes that it's an opportunity that the kids have to have 7 periods. Yeah. So I feel lucky about that. I feel like it's kind of just sprung, I had no idea. And I just think that having input from the community on it, I don't mean that as a disrespect that don't have the best interests of our students in mind. It's just a huge change, and it's not in alignment. We've worked so hard with having the 2 high schools being aligned and consistent, and it just, again, the access thing for me, not a big deal. I understand it, and I believe that it's a good, based on our school site, I think it's an important thing and decision that you guys made. And I'm in agreement on that. I'm having a really hard time with kids getting out at almost 4 o'clock.
That's fair, and I hear you. And I'm also a parent of 3 kids in the district, and that 4 o'clock or 3:55 is a tough one. I think where it gets sticky is that that 8:30 start time where we bumped it up. We have been embedding access and using those as instructional minutes for the last really 7 years that we've been holding that access within the school day. So it spanned the time period where the day became longer. So at this point, we have tried lots of different schedules in order to incorporate those minutes, but without access, regardless, our day was always going to end longer. Because we were holding those access minutes, though, it kind of allowed us to skirt the issue of butting up against 4 o'clock. And I just want to speak to the access in general. We tried it for 7 years. 7 years of different iterations of trying to use access as a vessel to hold student academic supports. And what we saw was it did not move the needle for us. If anything, it moved it in the opposite direction, especially for the kids who need that time and need support the most. And what it's really done for us in the last few months is spurred a conversation of how we use time. And what we are really trying to do is think about how we use time within the instructional day better. Because we are almost 60% socioeconomically disadvantaged kids, and we need to leverage every single moment we have with them in class, and access wasn't doing it for us. So I just want to be clear and open and honest about that, because you can't really separate those two things. Yes, we are pushing our school day back to 3:55, 3 days a week. The other 2 days, we get out earlier, just to be clear. It's, I believe, 1:55. I don't have it in front of me. So Tuesday, Thursday, I believe, both days are 1:55. So, no?
Oh, if you're only have 5 periods. If you don't have a 7th period, yes.
So we can't really uncouple those two things. It has to be that by getting rid of access, instructional minutes have to move throughout the day in some way, shape, or form. I'm going to shout out to Jason Searle, because he was the one who came up with the idea of the 10-minute passing periods, because that counts as instructional minutes. That allows us to save time throughout the day. Otherwise, we would be right at 4 o'clock, if not past 4 o'clock. But again, because we've been holding those minutes within access, without access.
This isn't making sense to me, I'm sorry. So your class periods are 50 minutes apiece, so are San Marin's. So the only place where there's additional minutes is within the passing periods?
Yes.
And how does that add to access time throughout every class?
So access, when we have access, that's essentially an hour extra a week of
40 minutes?
instructional minutes. For us, it's been an hour for the last few years.
Oh, okay, you're talking about
right now.
Current, thank you.
Yeah. So when we lose those instructional minutes in access just within the school day, it means that as we try to shift minutes around, we have to butt up against 4 o'clock. There's really no way of skirting around that during some period. What am I saying?
I think that's the disconnect that I didn't even know. So what you're basically saying is that by changing access to the end of that day, because it's not a requirement for the kids to be there, you have to disperse those required minutes that were earlier in the day to the other.
But why wouldn't you want those as instructional minutes versus passing period minutes?
Ask me that again, sorry.
Why would you want those extra minutes to be time that kids are walking in the halls instead of time that they're in a classroom?
Part of what we're trying to do next year is we're trying to do something called a 10-10-10 rule. The idea is that for first 10 minutes of class, last 10 minutes of class, no student is allowed out of class. We're able to do this by having a 10-minute passing period. A 10-minute passing period allows kids to actually use the bathroom, to go and do things, to grab a snack. We have the grab and go snacks as they go. With a 7-minute passing period, there's not time certainly not with a 5-minute passing period. We tried various iterations of passing periods. So it allows us to essentially have a 30-minute block where last 10 minutes of class, kids are locked in. First 10 minutes, kids are locked in, and then 10 minutes that they are able to use the bathroom and take care of their human needs.
It's interesting this is only an issue here. Other comments?
I guess, because I understand that the union's already agreed to this, do we even have any, I mean, what's our ability here? I mean, can we even say, well, I don't know what anybody else is thinking, but I feel like, do we even have
You're welcome to vote against something if you
I
want
know I
to,
can
yeah.
vote against it, but I mean, it's pretty much a set thing.
The union did vote. They agreed to this iteration of a bell schedule. You still have, despite their approval, you still have the capacity to say no, and then we need to go back to the drawing board and come up with another schedule if the board says, no, we don't approve this.
Okay, thank you.
Any other voices that would like to be heard? Thank you.
Can you just talk about the messaging? If this moves forward, how are you going to make sure that this is messaged out properly?
We have been talking within our student communities and within our parent communities. So my hope is it's not going to be a massive surprise. We have run it by our bus schedules. It actually improves our outcomes for our kids who go to Hamilton. It takes about an hour when they leave school to get home, because the bus comes essentially right at the end of the bell. This actually gets them close. It gives them about 15 or 20 minutes to get to the bus stop. So it actually is going to be a shorter amount of time between when they leave school and when they get home. And we will push it out to our community as soon as it's approved.
I can say, I as a mom, we knew there was changes. I think the missing piece for me is just even hearing you explain about that. I think we just presumed, and clearly incorrectly, that access was moving. It makes sense. I completely, like I said, I'm in support and understand that, but not recognizing that then that means that we have to figure out how to apply those minutes to the other classes. And I have been in support of the fact that when Michelle's been at our PTA meetings talking about the fact that incorporating more of that time and supports into the day or into the class, I just didn't make the connection that means the day is so much longer. And again, I feel even stupid about talking about 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes. But when I think about the kids and the long day that we're being, it's put upon us because of this 8:30 mandatory, you can't start before that. We were already worried about 3:40 being late for those kids. And so I'm just having a hard time processing all that. And I think that even though there might have been conversations about it, I don't think we all took the pieces and understood fully what that implication was, setting aside the fact that we've really broken away from what's happening at Novato High, which we were really trying to, we were really happy that things were in alignment together. And I understand that there's different needs that right now for our school. And I appreciate the work because I know it was a lot of work to come up with a creative way to incorporate that. And I understand it better now. I still don't agree with it.
I think the beauty of it is it's a 1-year pilot. We're going to try it. And Julie, to your point, we are trying this 10-minute passing period because we think that it will positively impact tardies. We think it'll positively impact the ability for kids to get to class and for things to happen, and also to keep kids in class for that first 10, last 10. And it's a pilot. We have an opportunity to try something different, to move the needle. We've moved the needle in various places over the course of the last few years, and it's not enough. And so we got to do something, and this was our attempt at trying something new.
I really appreciate you guys thinking about the bus schedule for the Hamilton community, because I know that the Hamilton community has said that they wait a really long time. So thank you for thinking about that, because it is an equity issue. Thank you.
I skip me.
I just want to follow up on that then. So if we can have if we're doing this as a pilot, then what I would like to see to feel comfortable with it is to really understand who's using access. Whether the 10-minute passing period or whatever is really making an impact, if that's another reason that we're doing that. And I know that there's issues around the bathrooms, that the conversations have been happening on that. So I'd be interested to know if that improves. And I'd also like to more closely track attendance then for the end of the day. Because I'm really concerned about kids who are in sports and things or have places to be. Having 20 minutes to get somewhere, at 4 o'clock, you can make it across town. You can't make it across town by, so I would just be interested to follow that and understand the impact that it has for students who have other things to be at.
How does it impact somebody playing a sport? Are they going to be pulled out of the last period of the day to go play at Terra Linda, or what happens?
For for competitions sometimes. We are actually also simultaneously trying to run a 7th period athletics course where essentially it's athletic training. So what we're trying to do is get all of our athletes into a 7th period class where they're doing athletic training with their specific sports. So our hope is that we're trying to do this simultaneously so that the kids who are especially like three-season athletes can use that 7th period for athletic training in their off season, and then they are released early from their athletic training class during their season.
So I appreciate you taking this leap that you're, I mean, we do like to see both high schools on the same, we've worked really hard to get there. But I also respect you creating a schedule for your school population that you feel that's going to move the needle. So that's why where I stand and where I would approve this to move forward and give you an opportunity to see this work and move forward. So.
I'd just like to also add that I appreciate that you're looking at outside the box options. I think that's a smart way to solve a problem in general. I do think that if this doesn't work, we have to find a way to, instead of continuing to move the bar of our expectation to make it easier for kids to maybe conform to what we're doing, hold them accountable to do the thing, like show up on time and maybe be present for more than just 2 10-minute chunks of the class. Like that feels like a very low expectation.
Sorry, to be clear, they are present for the whole
I
thing.
know
It's
that,
just,
but you're putting a big focus on that. I understand.
It's bathroom usage. So like that no one is allowed to leave to go to the bathroom, which allows us to do entry tickets and exit tickets. So it's a good pedagogical practice, and part of what we're doing in all of this and looking at good pedagogical practices that we know also will move the needle. And part of that is making sure that we have a good landing point and a good exit point for every single classroom.
And I will also share that kids are leaving early from school for away games for all the sports currently already. Yeah. Other comments? Questions? Okay, this is a vote. Do we have a first to approve? Trustee Butler, thank you. See a second by Trustee Lametta. All in favor? 6, none opposed, thank you. Our next item is 14C, review and approve board policy update 5000 series, first reading, mobile communication devices. This will come back as a second reading on consent next meeting.
All right, good evening once again. I'm here tonight to report out on our electronic device committee that we formed this year. The purpose of our committee was to review existing protocols regarding electronic devices and to collaborate with staff, students, and families to gather input and provide feedback to NUSD administration and the Board of Trustees on the use of mobile electronic devices on campus. This is just a list of our committee members. We had parents, we had staff members, we had district office folks, we had administrators, we had a couple of students, including our student trustee, Maddie Walker, was there, and we have a couple of our members in the audience tonight. What did we do? So we looked at current policy, we looked at other districts' policies. We looked at our own infraction data that I reported out on earlier tonight. We researched Yonder pouches. So those are the pouches that kids put their cell phones in at the beginning of the day. They're locked. And at the end of the day, those pouches get opened. Those proved to be very, very expensive. And then we conducted surveys with parents and guardians, students, and staff. And this is just some of the information that we got from our survey. So the parent survey, we asked them, do you feel the electronic device policy is fair and reasonable? And we attached the policy to the survey so they had a chance to read it if they weren't familiar with it. 85% said yes, they felt it was fair and reasonable the way that we have it right now. We did ask them, do you have any concerns about your student not having access to their phone or smartwatch during the school hours? We allowed them to give multiple responses, so that's why you see the percentages don't add up to 100%, because they could give multiple responses. Emergency communication was the big one. That was 48%. 38% was other, so that was an option for them, and they could write in what they meant by other. Most of it was around students with 504s or IEPs or health reasons. And then there were quite a few of them, even though we had no concerns as an option, they wrote none. So I wasn't clear on that. 28% safety concerns, 27% difficulty in coordinating pickups, and 14% no concerns, and 7% social anxiety or isolation. We gave the students a survey as well. We asked them, do you think the new electronic device policy has had a positive or negative impact on your school community? 51% said negative impact. And so I took their responses and kind of summarized them, or the ones that were most popular. And their comments were, we have to be more sneaky with regard to our electronic devices. We should be allowed to listen to music, and we should have access to our devices in case of emergencies. 31% of the students said they were neutral on it, although the comments that they put in their, the option of writing stuff in was mostly positive. It was around that they appreciated the policy. And 18% had they felt it had a positive impact. They said there's less distractions, we're talking more with each other, and it's made the school a safer place. And then we polled the school staff. How do you feel the new protocols have impacted student behavior? I'm not going to read all of these to you, but just a few of them that jumped out. Helped decrease conflicts, helped that we are on the same page and students know what to expect, and has increased instructional time. And then how have the protocols affected student socialization and relationships on campus? Just a few of these. Positive relationships have increased, students are talking and playing more, and there's less phone and social media issues. And then, so I'm bringing you tonight a first reading of Board Policy 5131.8 around mobile communication devices for your consideration of approval for a second reading. I do want to say this is not the whole policy. You should have the whole policy in front of you. These were options that were given to us by the California State Board Association. If you take out the words high school and elementary middle school, these were two options. So the students may use smartphones or other mobile communication devices on campus during non-instructional time, as long as the device is utilized in accordance with law and any applicable school rules, or students shall not use smartphones or other mobile communication devices while at a school site. So those were two options that we had to choose from, or you can pick both of them. We decided to pick both of them because we felt like this fit high school, and then the bottom one fit elementary and middle school. And that's all I have.
So one of the questions I had, and Mike and I have talked about my concern, is the fourth paragraph in the policy regarding the elementary and middle school students shall not use smartphones or other mobile communication devices while at a school site. So my question was, is that okay? Then it's okay to use a cell phone on a field trip, a bus, or whatever. And so the question was, the answer was no, they cannot. So when I read this, though, a school site is the school campus. So I have some language here that I would recommend and see what everybody is open to. So after the word or other mobile communication devices, and I put during the school day, which includes on school campus, field trips, and district provided transportation. So I'm open to making that adjustment if I've forgotten something in there. But I just assumed those were the three things that came up. So that's what I would recommend.
I like that. I just had another thing I wanted to point out, which my husband works with these medical devices, and a lot of the devices coming out now for like kids with diabetes and things, they have to have their cell phone. So I want to acknowledge that you actually had incorporated something on that.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that element. I think the only question I would have is that if there's going to be like a form or criteria, because I know sometimes people just say, oh, my kid has anxiety, they need to have their phone. So I think it's a little bit of a slippery slope. So I don't know if there have been any conversation or thought around that, but I do appreciate that, that reference point, because I think it is something that concerns some families.
Is there a form that would be used for that?
Yeah, so I was going to address that some students have a 504 accommodation plan, and that's where it would be incorporated into allowing them to use their phone for like diabetes or whatever.
But, I mean, would a student with diabetes have a 504?
Mhm.
Oh, they
The
have a
health
health plan?
plan,
Oh, they
yeah,
do?
health
Oh,
plan,
okay.
yeah.
I didn't realize that. Okay, so perfect. So we can just use it through that. That would be the criteria for which.
Yep.
Got it. Thank you.
Great. Okay, I'm so sorry, I'm so tired. Do we vote and it comes back next time? Okay, thank you, sorry. If there are no other questions, I'd like to see if there's a motion to approve this policy for first reading, and it will come back on consent.
With the edit?
With the edit, with the edit, yes. Okay, I saw trustee Mack with a first. Trustee Gasson with a second, thank you. All those in favor?
Yeah.
Debbie, do you want to vote or you're against?
Oh.
Great, we have 6.
I'm wrapping my stuff up.
None
I'm ready to go.
opposed, wonderful. Okay, our last item on agenda this evening is 14. We're skipping 14E, but we do have
Oh, D.
14D, which is the approval of the declaration of need for fully qualified educators for the 25-26 school year.
Good evening. And I still have some voice left. Woohoo. So the item you have here before you, this is an annual item that's brought to you typically at one of our June meetings before we close out the current school year. That is a requirement from the CTC that we declare before we close out this school year what we think we're going to need in terms or anticipate in terms of any emergency permitted staff for the coming school year or intern credential staff for the coming school year. The numbers reflected in this document are not that far off from what has been included on this document in the most recent school years. And we usually overestimate, I will say, although we are allowed by the CTC to bring to the board a revision to this document after we get into the school year next year. And if we discover, oh my goodness, we really need, 5 more emergency clad permit people than we anticipated, then we can bring a revision to you for approval at that time. But we try to avoid that if at all possible. And I think that's generally the gist. So I'm happy to try and answer any questions.
Okay, so trustee Gasson would like to make a motion to approve this.
Can I just ask a clarifying
We
question?
have to, now that we have a motion,
so sorry.
a first on, we have to get a second, and then we
Okay.
can take questions before the vote. Thank you. Trustee Mack. All right, question from trustee Alexander.
Sorry about that. My timing was bad. Could you, sorry, I'm also trying to think. If there were to be a revision based on need that were to be made, would that just be done at the next board meeting? Or is there a time when you're projecting ahead and you say, okay, halfway through the year, we'll bring a revision back because based on those projections, we think we'll need to revise?
Good question. So the revision would only be brought back to the board if we come across having to hire someone that will have us exceed the number that we brought forward initially. Yeah. So I can't really predict exactly when that could happen. Some years it happens, other years it doesn't.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? 6, none opposed. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We will see everyone at our next regularly scheduled meeting, which is January 24th.